waiting for him to say something.
Sorry.
And he's running against
Sorry.
George Herbert Walker Bush Senior.
Sorry.
And you want to talk about boring.
This is 88. He came out of a tank. Didn't he come out of a tank?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Sorry.
It was shocking the lack of anything substantive to say. And you sit there and you would look at it.
I can't stand him. I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Why is that doing that? Sorry. Let me put this little lady on.
8 on your side.
8 on your side.
And we're seeing some damage this morning in Bel Air Beach.
That's where Alessandra Young is this morning. We've been texting a little bit, Alessandra, about some of the damage that you're seeing there. Kind of
okay, I'll turn them down a little bit. Good morning. Sorry I'm late. I got distracted.
Hey there, good morning. Malika and I, my photographer, we have been
by betas. Lieutenant Dan survived. Fantastic. He got a new deal from Aiden Ross, who's a MAGA streamer. And I want to show you all. We terrible. Have some broken fences, a tree down. Ross. There's some caution tape all around it. Anyway.
Now this is not the only
I might turn this.
See like this.
I'll leave the sound on. Hi, Easily. How are you? I'm so sorry I'm late. I really was here on time, but I was just sitting here watching silly stuff on YouTube. Like this guy, the guys I was listening to, PBR. I don't know. No, it's PBD podcast. I'm going to have to turn their sound down because, frankly.
But we did speak to people who...
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to turn that sound down. It's kind of distracting. Talk about being easily distracted. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? I hope you're well. I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm good. I did an open mic last night. Oh my God. It wasn't a big one. I kind of did it at the last minute. It was friends of friends who were running it. Friends of friends of friends. And so they were so kind. And of course, it was very small. It was about, I don't know, 10 or 12 people. I mean, it was very small. And actually, I guess I'll wait. Good morning, butterflies. How are you? Sorry I'm late. I was distracted watching stupid stuff on... I was watching the PBD podcast. What does PBD stand for? I'm not sure I want to know. Do we know what PB... I know, I was really excited. I kind of was like, I want to do this. Okay, good. I'm glad, butterflies. Now I don't feel so bad. If you're late, I'm late. We're all a little late. That's okay. What is it? Thursday? It's Thursday. Oh, my God. Anyway, I know. That's okay. We can be late. We can be late. It looks, I'm hoping everyone made it through this storm. In safety. And hey girl, love you. Hi Jen. Hi Lee. Kettle is on. Yes, baby. I like it. Is everybody got, like, what's the weather sitch out there with people? Is it like snuggly weather, right? Rainy maybe, or cold or whatever? Or is it meh, usual? I don't even know if today's like rainy here, or I haven't gone outside yet. It's 59 degrees. Oh, it looks... I think it's just cloudy right now here. But like the Chuds thing, Call Me Daddy podcast is perverted or something. Oh, yeah. No, I haven't I haven't seen the Call Me Daddy or heard the Call Me Daddy podcast. I'm probably listened to it because I didn't even think about it. I've never even heard of it. But oops. Sorry. Turning my fan down. Sunny, chilly morning. Oh, yeah. Beautiful afternoons. 45 hit. Oh, see, this to me, that actually is great weather. I like really cool and then, you know, in the 60s kind of thing where you can still put on a sweater. You could wear a T-shirt, you know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Neil. How are you, darling? Good to see ya. Good to see ya. Oops. So yeah, I sang the voter registration song because I couldn't really remember anything. I love sweatshirts in the morning. Fuck I love that. I'm finally in long sleeves. That's like amazing. Although I am a little warm. But it was so fun. It was so fun. So it was first of all, two of my dear friends who really have to experience my mental illness in a real sense, in terms of in real life, face to face. Not that I'm all the crazy, but I don't know. I can just be really difficult. It can be difficult to be friends with someone who's like sad or has inertia or anything, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So these two folks who are here in Los Angeles have been so dear to me and Bobo, and just so I don't know, just so loving. I the kind of friend that I am is I'm not like I'll talk on the phone every day. Oh, I'll, da 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 da. It's not, I'm terrible that way. I think it's like my mom was that way too. She was very like introverted in terms of like socializing. So even though she had friends, like I have friends from like high school who I'm still friends with, and if I called them and said, "Hey, I'm in town," we would be like getting together. So I have like, I feel like my friends are like you guys, like it's pretty like solid, and it doesn't have to, it's not dependent. Like my friendships aren't dependent. If I don't see you in years and then we get back together, I don't, it's like we've never stopped seeing each other. So I think I really like, but I can, that can be hard. If you're a friend who really likes, oh, I want to hang out all the time. Not that these people are, but you know what I mean? There are people like that. And I am like not really good all the time on that. Anyway, so long story short, these two people are very sweet. And I won't say what they do because that would be too identifying, but they're both in the industry, in the entertainment industry. And so they know a lot of people locally. And there's this couple that they know, two gentlemen who are really Hollywood legends. And, I won't, whatever, but they're like, they have been part of Hollywood since like the Rat Pack, kind of, Sammy Davis Jr. and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like there are just really, really interesting, like really cool people. So they are friends with the person who is holding this. It's a weekly open mic for either singing, cold reads, comedy, whatever you want to do. It's very relaxed, very relaxed. And the woman who runs it is like not old, she's my age. She was maybe a little older, but she was in like movies back in the day. She got her start like in French Connection, and so she's been acting steadily over the years, and she's become an acting teacher. And so she wanted to do this showcase, like a open mic basically. And so anyway, we got invited to this, and I wasn't going to do anything because I really just wanted to see what it was like to do to see an open mic, see what the vibe is, what the protocols are, and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm nervous about doing that. I'm really nervous. And yeah, I know. I realized that people calling me moody all my life were right. Posting on Twitter sort of gives it away. I know. We just had friends over that we haven't seen in 20 years, picked up from where we left off. I know. I'm your friend to the end, I may be flaky. That's what I'm going to try and say. I may be a flake sometimes, but I absolutely am there. I'm really there. I know she went on the Call Me Daddy podcast. I think that's great. Yeah, Butterflies. I remember hearing about that. I haven't seen it yet, but what's that guy? I think it's great. Good for her, because young people are who we need. We need young people to be engaged in political dialogue. Oh, great. That's so great. Good for her. Good for her. So very small open mic, very friendly, very, and so the woman's like, oh, come on, do something, do something. You know, she's trying to get everybody to stand up and do something, which was great. I mean, it was very like you felt like, you know, you could do it. Anyway, so I went ahead and like, okay, I'll do something, you know, like if nothing else, maybe she can give me something to read and I'll just read it. It's good to get up in front of people and do stuff like that. But then I decided, okay, well, you know, I said I'll sing Check Your Voter Registration, Darling. So I did that song. And it was well received, you know. I think it was good. We have a tape of it somewhere. I'll probably get it and put that out. But it was just a great experience to do that and just sing. And people were, of course, very kind and very, you know, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was a good evening. I'm going to do it again. And next time I have my comedy set. It's not great, but I'm going to try it with these folks because now I feel like, I mean, you know, like they'll laugh or they won't laugh, and that's fine. So I think it's a great setting to try out stuff and just like, it was fun. Hi, Peace Love. How are you, darling? It was. They'd never ask again. Well, I mean, I had a conversation with one of the guys who is like just a love. He's a love. Like he's a total love. Like he makes you feel like you're so seen. I love people like that. I love people who really take the time to say, I see you, and you know, I don't know. I just was really good people. Really, really good people. And you know, Hollywood is weird, right? Hollywood is a weird place. But these are pretty much established Hollywood people from, you know, back in the day, and now doing things still to this day. This guy, you know, funds pictures, funds films and stuff like that. So he's always looking for script. I mean, so I love this. I love this part of Hollywood, right? Like this is and they're, I don't know. You know, there's a thing about being in a room with artists, people who just want to do things. And there were a lot of people who have not been comedians before, but they've been taking acting lessons or something like that. And there were a lot of actors there who are, you know, are actively acting in things, you know, and just do this to kind of get, I don't know. It was a great experience. I'm in. I mean, you would never get booed off stage, Peace Love. This is the kindest audience ever. So it's probably not maybe the best place to like start off, but it was fun. It was fun. I'll do it again. So I think what I'll do is try to I would have to do the theme from All in the Family. I can hit those notes. Everyone says I sound like Edith. Oh, the fine time Miller. Wait. All the things Glenn Miller played. Na 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 hit parade. Na 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 na. Those were the days. That's right. I remember that. Oh my God. I hadn't thought about that theme. That was a good show. So anyway, yeah, it was great. I do have a set of jokes, but I don't know. I'll try it. This is definitely the place to try it because people will at least be like, meh, you know, but they won't boo you off the stage. And they'll say, good try, you know, like, and I can appreciate good try. I'm in. That's all I need. That's all I need to be encouraged. I've never heard you. That's true, Peace Love. I've never heard you sing. I feel like people don't give themselves enough opportunity to just belt it out and just sing. And I wish people would do that more because I think, you know, people can sing better than they think they can, I think. I don't know. You just have to it's also finding like the style of song that fits your voice. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it. Mary Hartman was the best Norman Lear show. Fuck yeah. I just told Bobo about that, Max. I said, you have got to watch Mary Hartman, because in the day when it came out, that blew my mind. That show was so funny and so well done and so intelligent. You guys, it's really, if you haven't seen Mary Hartman, find the reruns because it is a brilliant set of comedians, first of all, that did it. And it's just fucking it was off the chain. It was off the chain. I loved it. You know, TV isn't quite as brave, I think, these days as it was then. So I don't know. I think it was good. But anyway, good night. I had a good time. I'll do it again. Nobody said get the fuck out of here and never come back. They actually said come back next week. No, they said that to everybody, which is fine. That's what I do in the car, sing the top of my lungs. Yes, while driving back roads. Yes, girl. Car karaoke is my favorite. I might be known as the girl who drives around town dancing as if she's like a Tina Turner backup dancer in her car with music blasting. So I'm pretty bad about that. I think that there are things happening, but I don't, I'm kind of like, what? Where's my DC bar? Because we're going to listen to that today. Yeah! Okay, we got some listening to do. This is a continuation of the shit we saw yesterday.
I was being asked to sign the complaint, and that I didn't think I was agreeing to every word in the complaint. Having your name associated like that is more like a participation trophy than a permit any improvement. With that qualification, yes.
All right, let me get the audio background again. Because
okay, let me ask a few more questions just about the people who were involved in putting this complaint
board
together.
Lawyer, so she's the one who speaks for the board. Questions for the board.
He also had his own firm. Is that correct?
Just from the signature block, that's what I assume. Yes.
And had you ever worked with Mr. Kleinhelder before?
No.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you know about Mr. Kleinhelder's other, I guess, litigation?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Did you know that he was a defendant in a case?
I didn't know he existed. He introduced himself to me on December 22nd as someone working with Sidney Powell. I knew from two other
Sidney Powell's at the bottom of this particular audio that we're hearing.
In my mind, had stellar skills and
I pinned the background to what you're hearing.
My only entree was with.
We're not supposed to be displaying it.
And what were those other two pieces of litigation that you worked on with Miss Powell?
Right. Well, with Miss Powell isn't quite right. One was with her, and the other I watched what she did for a client of mine. So I'll cover both of them. There's a former Texas congressman named Steve Stockman, or I forget if it's Stephen or whatever his first name is spelled out.
Hi, Carrie. Good morning.
And I did an amicus brief in the Fifth Circuit for a public interest client in support of him. And then I was hired to do the cert petition for him. And Powell was super expensive. I mean, she's, I think, or was very well paid for the work she does, white collar criminal work or whatever. And so she knew Mr. Stockman and would join some of our calls and had, solid information to contribute. So that was one where I would say I worked with her. And then the other was a representation of General Flynn. I had the same public interest client of mine was interested in maybe filing an amicus brief in the DC circuit in that proceeding. And so I watched that. And I think it's fair to say she did a pretty good job there. And at least until she didn't. I mean, I think she eventually lost, but then the case got mooted, I guess, by the change in administration. Okay. Or, I'm sorry, no, maybe it was a pardon or something.
William Sessions, who's also on the last page of the complaint that was filed in Texas. Am I correct that Mr. Sessions was brought in at the last day or two to serve as local counsel?
I wonder if I can catch up to the beginning of this.
Using the 27th as the day the case was filed, I was brought in on the 22nd. I believe the case got, and that was to do for me local counsel for a DC district court filing. I believe it was on Christmas that the Texas plaintiff was added. And I don't know if Ms. Powell's admitted in the Eastern District of Texas. She's a Texas lawyer.
I'm gonna be a little naughty. Hold on.
But the decision was made
Be
to
naughty
bring
with me, please.
Mr. Sessions in. So when you say last minute, I mean, the case as it was filed really started on the 25th and was filed on the 27th using this complaint that had really been drafted
No, I better not.
before the 22nd. So I was involved in reorienting the complaint to cover the new plaintiff. I forget what else was added, quite frankly. And yeah, Mr. Sessions. So with that, and when you say the last minute, I mean, we're talking about the 25th to the 27th. I don't know when in that window he was brought in.
Did you make the arrangements to have Mr. Session become involved as plaintiff's counsel so that it could be filed in
See you
the
soon.
federal court in Texas?
I was not involved in finding Mr. Gomer or finding Mr. Sessions.
The other two counsel that are listed, Ms. Holler and Mr. Johnson. Am I correct that Ms. Holler also participated in
Holler
preparing
and
the
Johnson
complaint
are
that was
two of the
filed?
three lawyers being
Texas?
I really don't
adjudicated here.
recall.
But to your knowledge, was her name and DC bar number included on the complaint as counsel for plaintiffs with her permission?
Objection.
I asked to his knowledge.
Sure.
Why don't we bring it up? That
Yeah.
might be the safest way to answer the question. I'm pretty sure it was on there. Just going back to the last page of.
Her name was, I can say from memory that her name was there and she was on the emails, but I don't know who did the work. And I don't remember what work she did as opposed to others.
All right.
So when you say she was on the emails, these were the emails of the draft complaint and the back and forth before it was filed?
If I recall correctly, I guess it's not in evidence yet, but I have an exhibit where Mr. Kleinhandler reaches out to me for the first time. And I believe she's on that. And in other words, everyone's on that. By everyone, I mean, well, whoever's on that email is who, was the quote team or the distribution list, whatever you want to call it.
And I guess my question to you was, to your knowledge, was Miss Haller's name and DC bar number included in the complaint with her permission?
To my knowledge, sure.
Okay. And I have the same question with respect to Brandon Johnson. Was Brandon Johnson, to your knowledge, involved in preparing the complaint?
It's the same basic answer that I gave from Ms. Haller. The one thing I'll say differently about Mr. Johnson is, again, and you may have seen the exhibit, but one of the Joseph exhibits shows that Mr. Kleinhandler sent me the complaint with everything that you find objectionable baked into it already. Mr. Johnson sent me the exhibit, that whatever legislative exhip as well.
The joint resolution?
But we don't all agree that's what it is. But I'm legislative exhibit because I don't want to. That's what it calls itself, right? But I'm not sure that's what it is.
Okay, so you just to circle back, to your knowledge, Mr. Johnson was involved in preparing the complaint that was eventually filed in the federal court in Texas.
I don't know the degree, and I don't know which particular words he was involved in.
And I guess I'm going to have the same question for Mr. Johnson that I did for Ms. Holler, and that is, to your knowledge, was Mr. Johnson's name and DC bar number included in the complaint with his permission?
Objection. No foundation to know that he would have any knowledge of them. Well, she asked it to his knowledge. Do you have any knowledge of whether Mr. Johnson was, whether his name was included with his consent? one way or the other.
Well, it's there, as everyone agrees, and it says what it says, as everyone agrees. What that means, I don't know, but it's there, and he was on emails that circulated it. So could we have missed it? I don't know. He'll have to tell you, but to my knowledge, I would say that he saw it. Yes.
Objection. I think the issue was with his permission, and so we still haven't heard any basis for his knowledge, if he has any, of whether or not that was with permission.
I have to agree with that, if I'm allowed to talk now.
After the complaint was filed, did Mr. Johnson ever indicate to you that his name and DC bar number had been put on that complaint without his permission?
No.
And Ms. Powell was not listed as counsel for the plaintiffs, correct?
I don't recall, but if you bring it up, I'm sure if you say so, I'm sure that's true.
I'm going to ask you about the allegations in the complaint, but before I do that, I want to ask a little bit about your activities before this complaint was filed. And those activities included your post-election investigations and the litigation that was filed before Gohmert. First, your investigations. More than a month before Gohmert was filed, you were doing your own analysis of data to make out a case for fraud. Is that correct?
I don't know that I would, it wasn't directed to, quote, make out a case for fraud. I was
really?
sort of evaluating what happened. And as a citizen, as a lawyer, was,
Right.
you know, all of the above.
You're just curious.
It wasn't,
Wasn't what? Wasn't what?
sort
It
of,
wasn't calculated?
so to speak, with the
Was it
2020
made
election
up?
is the electors and elections clause. This other stuff came, you know, I mean, I didn't go find the New York Times data. Someone sent it around and I
okay.
looked at it and
Uh-huh.
found that those anomalies to which you're referring.
Really? What
I don't know if
anomalies?
there's an explanation.
Right?
I'd love for there
so
to be
you
an
didn't look at one.
explanation.
There were no anomalies.
Fraud really wasn't my thing with the 2020 election.
Really?
It was
you were just
well, I think that's
concerned.
what fraud means.
just
Actual fraud, meaning
concerned.
ballot stuffing or those sorts of electronic shenanigans. My beef was the way the laws were tinkered with before the election, and then perhaps changed the outcome or made the outcome uncertain if you were only going to count legal ballots. That's an interest
just
that I
legal
had
votes.
that predated
Right.
2020.
Yeah,
I think the
know. You were
first
just,
electors elections clause brief I
you were just
filed,
thinking
maybe it was just the
out
elections
loud.
clause at that point,
Yeah.
was in 2018.
What the hell?
But
Who
so I'm sorry
cares?
if I digressed.
I didn't really do
Sorry,
anything.
Emily, could you please pull
Everything's
up
fine.
disciplinary counsel's exhibit number 325 and go to
Mm-hmm.
page 45?
Where is?
And you could blow it up a little bit, Emily, so Mr. Joseph can see it.
I'm very familiar with this.
Good, because I was going to
Joseph
ask you,
is one
this
of
is
the
a
defense
document
attorneys.
that's familiar to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, this is an email where I guess you were the sender, at least on the top, but as most email chains go, it's in reverse chronological order. You weren't representing any client on November 22nd, 2020 in connection with the election, were you?
No.
Okay, so who are the people that were, you sent this to and who was copied?
I'm sorry?
Who are the people that you were sending this to and who are the people that were copied?
Barry over to Oak Hill.
I'm not sure. I think I might object as to relevance.
Excuse me?
I object to the question as my counsel. These are people that weren't involved
You
in
can't do
Gohmert,
that.
that we were talking about the election. When I provided this to disciplinary
This must be
counsel,
Joseph.
and I'm the person that added confidential there. I blacked out their names because I didn't think it was important.
Oh, really?
I was trying
you
to
decided it
establish,
wasn't
because at that
important what
point,
to put on evidence?
ODC's inquiry
What?
to do with
Huh?
why do you think there was fraud in the election? And I wanted to show that, like I looked into some things and this is
did you?
anomalous.
Oh, really? Is it? What's
But the
anomalous?
people
I
with
would
whom I
really
was having
love
that
to know.
conversation,
No, I
I
want to
don't think
know
they should be
exactly
dragged
what
into
you thought
this
was
if that
anomalous,
can be
bitch.
avoided. And I don't see how it's relevant.
Come on. Oh, fucking asshole.
Because no, I was not representing a client. And no, it was not
Then
to
why were you doing it?
create
For
a case
shits and giggles?
about fraud in the election.
You get off
I
on
was
election
responding
shit?
to
What? What is it?
some emails. So I don't see how the names are relevant.
Oh,
Was
really?
this
I do.
Written as part of your
I
work
see it's
on
relevant.
the Texas litigation, or is it something?
When you say the Texas litigation, which
Oh, you know which one I mean.
Case.
well, it was 2 Texas cases is why I asked.
Okay.
And then the Texas case that's not
How about
Gomer
both of
happened
them?
before Gomer by about 3 or 4 weeks, but it's not for that. It was probably with that group of some of that group of people, but some of them not that
Oh,
group of people.
okay. All
But it
right.
has
Well, who
nothing to
was
do
in the
with Gomer.
goddamn email that you blacked out?
This document, other than to respond to an interim disciplinary council inquiry, which came out in the final, it was not in the final charges about, that you had no basis for thinking there was fraud in the 2020 election.
Correct.
And again, my shtick with the election wasn't
Your
fraud,
shtick?
actual fraud. It was
it?
elections clause violations, which I'll explain at some point. But this
will you?
email
Great.
and the recipients are completely irrelevant, and I don't think they should be dragged into this proceeding.
No, I think they should. No.
Don't
Don't redact them. You can't redact it. You can't redact evidence.
So these people had nothing to do with the
I'm gonna show you
litigation either in
what we're looking
Gomer
at.
or the litigation that was filed on behalf of Texas against Pennsylvania and other states?
I'll answer the first half and then ask a clarifying question about the second half. They had nothing to do with Gomer.
I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I don't care. I'm a bad person. Sue me. This is important information.
But why would that be relevant?
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit about that case too, just because you were involved in other litigation involving the 2020 election, correct?
I can see that would be relevant to Gomer. I don't see how the names of these people is relevant to Gomer.
Well, unfortunately,
Emily,
you
if
don't have a
could keep that up,
choice.
please. I still want to ask Mr. Joseph some questions about it. Well, let me go back. And the first, you were looking at data sets according to your email. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you go to the second page, which is page 46, the first email, there's an email to you and others from someone who's anonymous, providing a link to Director Blue Blogspot. Was that the source of your information or data?
Blog? Wait, he went to Blogspot for data? Oh my God, he did.
So
here's the source I saw with
if I
Excel
recall
work
correctly, it was New York
showing
Times. It was a link
4,800
to,
net batches for Biden in California and 6,000 net batches in Arizona. Director
it was the New York
Blue
Times
dot-
that was the
What?
publisher of the data. I don't recall how many links you had to click through.
I gotta fucking.
But at some point, if you did, you got these, I believe
Man. I
there were
can't do it.
spreadsheets.
Okay, but Director Blue was the source of the data that you were analyzing or looking into. Is that correct?
So, the initial source, at least, it might have clicked through from that. I don't remember what happened at that link. Maybe you got the data, or maybe had to go to some other page.
Okay, so the
Oh,
data that
Doug
I guess
Ross.
Director
This is
Blue
Doug
was
Ross.
providing you.
Let me
This
show
was
you what they're
not
talking
data from any state.
Let me show you what they're
Correct.
talking about. This is where this guy got anomaly
I don't
data.
quite remember
Fuck.
the name, but
Hold on. This is
I mean,
funny.
there was some sort of generally in the public accepted.
This was
sort
what
of
this is the website. This
public
guy got
release
his
data, and some of the
election
witnesses, I think,
anomalies
have talked
data
about
from.
it as well.
It's a blog. Now, no shame,
Yes, it's
but
not
this
an
is so
official state
1998.
website, but I believe it's the best approximation
You
as
think this is
published
the
by the New
best?
York Times.
Oh, really? This is the best where you get your data? This
Published.
toilet bowl? This toilet bowl is
So
where you
they-
get your data,
you
Mr.
Believe the New
Counselor?
York Times is a credible source of information.
All the news that's fit to print. I have some
shut
stories
up.
about that.
But
Fuck off.
as
Nobody
to your
cares.
analysis,
See, these people are not redeemable, okay?
which is on the first
These
page, Emily,
lawyers need to be
going
just
back to page
disbarred
45.
and work at Denny's. That's it.
You were looking
I'll have
at
my moons over my
data sets
hammy
for
with a
Georgia and
soft
Pennsylvania.
scramble.
Is that correct?
That's all that was available, as I recall.
Okay, and this again was provided by Director Blue Blogspot.
Here we go.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and do you know
May,
who is
Cinnamon
behind or
Mayorkas
who
discuss
is the
how to spend
source
the
or
650
behind
million
Director
taken
Blue?
from
No
FEMA in
idea.
2024
Do
for
you have,
migrants. This
did you
guy's a
do
fucking
any
liar.
research to determine whether or not this
He's
was
a
a
fucking
credible
liar.
source of information or data?
This source is a toilet
At the
bowl.
time, it looked credible, but I don't recall what I did
Oh,
to
sorry,
establish
Roland.
And
It
in
looked
your
credible.
analysis,
That
you
looked
talk about
credible. That
negative
looked
vote
credible.
instances.
That looked like a credible data
Where are
source.
we on this
You
document?
can scroll down.
Actually, if I could, it looks like what I did. I don't know. I don't
This
remember, but
this
I
toilet
was
bowl.
on Google Docs, spreadsheets, blah blah blah. and The
Blah blah
two
blah.
links
Got it.
used that I referenced in my email, and I don't know who put that data, whether it was Director Blue or somebody, or I have no idea.
Well, it refers to Jim. You said the blog posting that Jim circulated. Is Jim the person associated with Director Blue?
I have no idea.
It's Doug
Do you know who
Ross. His
Jim
name's
is?
on the
I
goddamn
don't recall.
website. You're a liar. Sorry, I'm yelling.
This is your email and you're referring to a blog posting that Jim circulated, but you don't know who the Jim is that you're referring to?
As I mentioned, there were
There were 3 gyms.
Other people. Some of them, all of them were involved with Gomer. Some of them were involved with Texas versus Pennsylvania, and some of them were not. And the ones that dropped off, it was a casual sort of series of emails that
you know,
we might have
kicking
had
shit
some
around.
teleconferences and Zoom conferences. I don't
I
recall.
don't know. There was 7 gyms.
And so no, I have no idea who Jim is. Could I find out by going
But I
through my
got all his
emails,
data.
perhaps?
I sure relied on his data.
I don't know.
But I don't
And,
know.
and again, I don't know how Director
don't know.
Blue connects to where I got these Google Docs
I don't
spreadsheets
know.
links that are actually in my email.
1 minute I was listening to
Emily,
Taylor
if you could
Swift,
scroll
and
up
the
just
next
a little bit
minute,
because excuse me, down. There, you can stop there. In your analysis or discussion with
oh my God.
confidential people you were
This is all
talking
just a bunch
to,
of lies about
you refer to
elections.
negative vote instances.
No,
And
he
I just
doesn't
want
know,
to
Jim.
understand that. Was it your
But he
contention in
loves
this
the data
email
that he shares.
that there were negative votes, meaning votes
Yep.
were being taken away from either
Yep.
Biden or Trump?
Yeah, that's his
That's what
analysis
the spreadsheet
from this
shows. Yeah.
blog spot. Yeah. Yeah. Sure did.
So did you think that that was credible, that there was actual votes being taken away from the two candidates?
No idea.
No idea. I don't know.
That's what the it
I'm just a
purported to be the
baby.
data feed that the New
I
York
don't
Times is
know.
putting out. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
I don't know.
But in the data feed, there would be
Don't ask me.
chunks of votes in those
Chunks.
increments.
There was chunks of votes.
And loosely in those increments.
Right,
I mean, if we get to the
loosely.
spreadsheet, which
Not
is later
exactly
down,
in those
it
increments.
shows the negative
Not-
vote instances. What
Right.
it means, whether it
Look
happened,
at
I
the
don't know.
spreadsheet
So you knew
I
that
got a Google
the
Doc
counties
from Jim.
within the state and the state published information about the votes
Yeah.
that
Did
were
you
cast,
did you
correct?
look at that? Did you look at the state data?
Sorry?
There were official sources,
Right.
state sources
Right.
about the votes that were cast
Right.
in the state, correct?
Mhm.
At the end of the election, the complete canvas, et cetera, numbers. Is that what you're talking about, the final score?
Right.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
But even
Whatever.
before that, there were unofficial results that were being
Exactly.
posted by states,
And they were
correct?
I
official.
would have no idea. It's really wasn't my
Really?
thing, as I said.
Oh, you didn't research the state websites. You went to
But
Doug's
according to your
blog.
analysis, there
Okay,
were
got it.
negative
Let me
votes,
show you
meaning
where
votes
he
were being
went.
taken away from
Instead of going
Trump
to the
and votes were
state,
being
he
taken
went
away
to
from
Doug.
Biden.
That's in the spreadsheet. If
It's his
you look,
blog spot.
yes.
This is where he got his
And
data
I'm
about
looking
election
at the
anomalies.
last,
I'm not kidding.
sentence in
I'm
the,
not kidding.
on page 45 and carrying over, and you
Doug's
say,
journal.
assuming that each negative vote swing in the ballpark
Who must know Jim?
of 4,800
can't
to
make this up.
6,000 in Georgia, Pennsylvania respectively
This is why I need people
fraud,
to listen to
the
it along
totals would
with me.
swing by 138,000 votes in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
So am I correct that you were making this projection based on negative vote tallies?
Can we bring up the red?
Yeah, Emily, if you could scroll down to the next page, please.
Oh my God, I went through this joint so fast.
I was like, yeah, I think I haven't read this email in a while, but I don't think I was telling anyone that anything bad happened. I was like saying, how do we explain this?
Okay.
Is what I was trying to find. I mean, I was looking for an explanation.
You're
the data are
saying that
accurate,
it's a
and,
problem.
you know,
You're
as you
speaking
point out,
definitively, you
as I
stupid
point out, the New York
cuck.
Times, you know, may or may not be
Oh my
accurate on
God.
some things.
I want
As
this
you
memo.
point out,
What's this fucking
it
memo?
may or may not have been
No.
the New York Times.
Confidential.
But that's what we do with we're going to show these chunks of negative votes, and I was wondering what does that mean? What, you know,
No, you
what
weren't
happened?
wondering. There's no wondering in this document. There's no wondering in this document. It's all putting information out there as if it's true.
Explanations for all of this. And
these are not estimations. He's giving specific information.
Whether, you know, why negative votes would happen.
Oh, easily. Are you okay?
And, you know, they shouldn't.
Oh, I know.
And what was the I guess response to the witness that you asked this about?
I forget. I think it was I forget if it was Georgia or Michigan that I asked.
Really? You don't remember which fucking state you called? It feels great. Oh, okay, good.
This is not, by the way, you've asked occasionally about ranked choice voting and fraction voting. This is not that. If you look at the spreadsheet,
it means a nerve's been
there's
released,
numbers
right?
that show the tally, and then, you know, it went up by this, it went up by that.
I don't know.
And then
I don't know how
there's
that
chunks
body
that are
works.
negative chunks. I don't know
Negative
what it means, or if it's
chunks,
true or anything.
Negative chunks.
Okay. And if you could scroll down a little bit
There was
further
negative
on page
chunks
46,
voted.
Emily.
And then not
Can you
voted.
read that
There's a lot of
paragraph
things.
beginning with my bottom line question?
Here we go. Well, this guy's name's Larry. I know that. My bottom line question is whether these amount to something that would constitute a pleading fraud as particularity, such as between 10:52 and 10:54 p.m. on 11/4, someone with access to Dominion, Pennsylvania dataset, i.e. Pennsylvania election official or a hacker, switched a net 12,000 votes from President Trump to former Vice President Biden. This allegation could be repeated for all of the instances signaled above, which would affect the outcome in PA and GA. This guy literally, in that paragraph that I just read to you, said we can use this phony data and just say that's what happened everywhere. He put his fraud in writing.
Appellate work or administrative work where there's a record that's defined. So the idea of pleading fraud with particularity is not something that I've had any experience with.
Right, but you said it was a good idea.
Putting it out in anomaly.
Everybody
if it were
knows someone.
true,
I do. I knew
would
a few
this
gyms. I was married to a gym
something that could be
once.
pled with particularity.
He was nice.
And you also
I love my
identified
ex-husbands.
Dominion as being the
I have
basis for alleging fraud because of an election official or a hacker, I guess, switching votes. Is that correct?
Easily. Oh my God.
Email says what it says.
Girl.
And
okay.
Am I correct
so
that
sorry, I
you never had
misunderstood.
any
I'm so happy
information
for you.
of an election worker or a hacker?
But still, put a little heating pad
getting
on
into
it.
the Dominion equipment.
Oh my gosh.
Excuse me.
I'm happy we were
not
able to
that-
share
and
that
that's
joy
what
with
we were
you.
talking about
That
it.
must be such relief.
I don't know that I was, you know, planning a lawsuit against Dominion. It was, I mean, that was just the name that was being thrown
Oh,
around
really?
then.
Oh, okay. So you thought,
So you
let's throw
also
that in
shared
there.
this analysis
Yeah,
with
fuck it.
others
You
about
just
a
said
day
fuck
before.
it, right?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What are you?
You
burping?
also shared your analysis approximately a day or two before you filed the Gomer case, correct?
Right. The Powell team, I'll call them, had some
Sydney Powell.
statisticians, and
She
they're
is.
mentioned, I think, in the Michigan
She's here.
litigation as well. And so I was
She'll
on
sit right here.
I was on the email with them, and so I had access. The group that I was dealing with
We're
here
gonna leave Sydney right
were
there.
lawyers, not statisticians, and I was asking, you know, does this sound plausible? And you know, does it amount to pleading fraud with particularity?
Oh my God, easily, I'm
With
so happy
the
for
Powell
you.
team, I
You could be
had
gentle with
access to
yourself.
people that had higher power math brains than mine. I
Oh,
was an
really?
undergraduate math major,
Oh,
but not.
well,
You know,
apparently not.
this is
How about morals and
computer
ethics?
science and
Did you miss
more
that class?
confusing, high-powered stuff. And so I was asking them. I shared this analysis with them and asked if they had any explanation.
And what'd they say?
And Emily, if you could, the same exhibit page.
Do you remember their names? Was
Exhibit
it
number
Jim?
325 at page 110.
All right, what's this? What's this? What's this?
If I could
What's
walk
this?
over to the other table. Oh, cheers.
It's a memo I can't read.
I'm sorry. Carry on.
Carry on. Just wanted to thank for the 4,800, 6,000 inference from yet another independent source. Regardless of over degrees in math, this kind of data is just sitting out there and saying things are wrong on their face and that you were correct to identify it as
and
bad.
This is the
There
email
are many others
that
who
you
also
were
noticed it, and
exchanging
we
with
cannot
Ms.
determine
Powell's
what's
team.
just human error and what's
Okay,
horribly
and so
off.
who was it sent to?
That's a lot of
Or who were
rationalization.
the other recipients and senders of these emails?
Oh, this is Larry Joseph. He's
There's
a
a guy
lawyer.
named Young and a guy named Stanley, and they may be the same person. I don't know their names. I
For
I
one
can
of the
find them, but I don't
plaintiffs
recall.
or one of the
But
defendants.
it was some of the same people that
But
are
the s-
mentioned in the
but
Sixth
the
Circuit
board
opinion
called him as
about
a
the
witness.
Michigan litigation. Statistical people.
Yes, statistical
And
people.
again, your analysis is all based
No,
on
Larry's not
the
charged.
instances of negative voting.
Isn't that interesting? He's representing another lawyer who's charged. Or, this is
Again, there's a vote
this is a
stream,
disciplinary
and then
hearing.
the numbers go
this isn't
down.
criminal
and
or
they have a
anything.
minus sign in front of
But
them.
it could lead to that.
So yeah, that's those. I mean,
So I guess even as of December 26, you weren't dubious about the fact that there were negative votes.
Everyone has weird questions
I'll
about the negative
analogize
votes.
it this way. I mean, there's instances where someone
it's the
wins a
Edison
marathon,
data
but if you
from
go
you.
back and play it in
Cyst
the
and
middle,
tailbone
you see
that
that they got in a
wrapped
car
around
and
my
drove
hip and
somewhere.
leg. Cyst
So the fact that the final
is
total
in
said
and wrapped
X
around the nerves.
would not be all that meaningful if in between
so
the
fucked
beginning
up.
and the end there was tinkering. So yeah, I know what the final score
Their
was.
bodies.
And some of this, the video is not video, but some of the
No,
data
there's no
capture
video. Right.
of things as they were proceeding show these negative instances,
They
which
do?
is
Where?
not unmeaningful.
Where do you see
I mean,
them?
it might not mean what someone hopes it means or feels it means.
Well,
but
what do you think it means?
You can't ignore it.
Okay. Well, where is
But
it?
by December 26, all the states had canvassed and certified the results.
Yeah.
And you're saying that their tallies, they were negative, they would go up and then they'd go down in that process?
We'd have to look at their tallies if we had them, but we didn't. What I had was the New York Times. I mean, in other words, someone from these public entities, states, municipalities, whatever, released data. Someone, maybe it was the New York Times, maybe it wasn't, purported to publish those data.
Okay.
And the snapshot that I saw, it's more,
Where'd you see it?
it's a spreadsheet,
Okay.
a series
the
of
Google
data
Doc.
shows instances of
course.
significant blocks
Of
of
course.
negative votes. And if
The
you look at
Google
the spreadsheet,
Doc.
you'll see that.
That's
Let me ask
ironclad.
you about, we keep hearing
Counselor.
about these spreadsheets. Are they part of
Who's?
disciplinary
blog
council's
spot?
exhibit 325?
Emily, if you can scroll down.
Let's see those.
This
Let's
is
see
what
those
Mr.
beautiful
Joseph
Google
produced.
sheets. Yep. Here we go.
Sadly, I don't think I had the borders turned on, so it's a little hard to follow.
It's
Actually,
fine.
Emily, if
Don't
you can go
worry.
back to up to page 45 and then scroll down from there.
I'm going to tell you, these guys are so fucked. They think they got away with something. They think that it's okay to stand up and lie.
Keep
And
on
what
going.
this discipline hearing is trying to prove is that they knew they were lying at the time they stood up in court and lied. So these folks are facing discipline by the DC bar because they lied in court. And so they have to prove why they weren't lying.
If the chair is
They really,
interested,
really,
I could
really double dog believed it.
get these spreadsheets,
And they worked
maybe
for
put them in
Sidney
landscape
Powell.
instead of portrait, have a header repeat at the top of each page.
Oh,
and
nice.
Produce
Good
them
one.
if
I
you
love
want.
this.
I still
That's
have the
great.
spreadsheets, but when I printed them for ODC,
You didn't
there were a
reformat
couple
them?
of problems. First of all, for
Right.
some of them, I didn't have I guess I do maybe have the borders on,
Yeah.
but I don't have headings. And
Right.
because it's more than one page, it's
So
a
you
little hard to
basically
follow.
just
It
ran
makes more
it and
sense if you
didn't
look
go
at
back
the
to it
Excel
and try and
spreadsheet, which I'd be
reform.
happy
Okay.
to provide.
No, you
I'm
wouldn't.
trying to understand, maybe I'm missing something, but what the issue is with respect to this, the memo that he wrote based on the spreadsheets, is claim that he misinterpreted the data in the
No,
spreadsheets?
no.
Or
that the data's bullshit.
Misrepresented
Your
in some
Honor.
way?
Well, I was just asking about the negative vote count, which
I like this woman.
Well, you can scroll up. I mean, they were
She's
highlighted
very
in green on
specific.
some of them there. I forget if it was up or down from here. And again, I apologize that this thing is broken up because it didn't all fit in one page.
You know what? You're not apologizing because you could have fixed it. You're lazy.
I mean,
And
again,
you're
I'd be happy to
you're a
produce the
petulant
spreadsheets in a
child.
more sensible format, but there
Too
are
late.
large instances of negative votes in
There
the
are
stream.
not.
I don't know why.
Oh my God.
but again, this was
I don't know
nothing
why.
from the states or the counties that were actually doing the tabulating.
Can you ask the question, who wrote the
Correct.
fucking spreadsheet?
Where did the data come from? From the New York Times, I think?
Well, I believe it was a New York Times website.
You believe it was?
Right. And
All right.
Or actually, it was a Google. I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize. I think it was a Google Docs website
Yeah.
that purported to be the New York
Right.
Times data.
Oh, okay. It purported to be, but you didn't
I
check?
don't know that I know.
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
the spreadsheets you created were the spreadsheets directly from the Google.
Right. And so at Google Docs, there was
That's the head
I
of the
forget what
board
Google calls a
speaking.
spreadsheet, but there was that. And then I put onto those spreadsheets some, so I didn't change any of their data,
Oh,
but I added columns to the right
how?
that would say, Mark, here, here's a plus 4,000 or
Oh,
4,800
you
or
did the
minus 6,000 or
negatives.
whatever.
You did the
So I
negatives.
just sort of I appended annotations onto the spreadsheet to
Oh.
flag the places
Oh.
where something strange perhaps
Oh,
happened.
really? Oh,
So when you were
okay.
talking about negative votes, are there
How'd you
places on the spreadsheets
Yeah.
that have a negative, a minus sign?
Absolutely, yeah, right.
Yeah, show me.
And there,
Point us to one or two
Yeah,
of those.
I
so
love
can
Ron. You're doing it.
understand
You're
what we
making
were
me
looking at.
happy. Yeah, show us on the
I think, Emily, you
spreadsheet
got to
where it
go
hurt you.
after page 46.
Where it's about to hurt you, Larry Joseph.
I can chime in here and just in my own scrolling.
Did you get it from
I
Ron
see it on
Watkins?
Page 48. And
Well, it's actually on the first page.
Yeah, I see some, all right, I think.
the small ones,
The fuck?
but I don't know what those.
So he thinks
one with
this
the
is
decimals, I have no idea what
this
that
is a
decimal means,
what?
but it's this left I don't think is relevant. It's the
What page are we on now? What page are you on, Mr. Joseph?
it looks like it's 47.
Okay, I see a bunch of negative numbers that I'm not.
Yeah, and it's the net change, I think, or the Biden delta or the Trump delta. So the fifth from right, third from right, and second from right would probably be the key ones to follow. And when we lose that header going down, that's my failure to have a header repeat.
So, Mr. Joseph, as I read this, the numbers
that's
keep on
not your
going
only
up for
failure,
Trump and
honey.
keep on going up for Biden. There was no negative votes, correct?
Well, look at the very bottom
I
one.
don't
It
even
looks
know
like
what
it's
the
a
fuck this
minus,
is.
a net change of minus 45,000.
Well, that was a change, but there were no negative votes.
What? Oh, it doesn't show negative
Okay, then
votes.
keep
It
going
just shows a
down.
net.
Maybe I misread the data.
What?
Would you keep going down, please? I mean, maybe
What?
one page at a time.
What?
Um,
What?
keep going down.
What?
And down again, please. And once more.
Oh.
And again. Okay, let's
All
stop
right,
there.
here we go. The little highlights. All right. That total, nothing makes any sense. There's a net change in votes. But it looks like the minus sign is wrong because it's like taking away a small number from a bigger number, but he has the product of
It
that
looks
being
like
a
there was
negative
some
number.
negative
Why?
votes there that changed it. Which line is
Where?
Yeah.
Where?
The date and time.
Where does he see that? Where does he? I'm looking at it. Where does he see what? What? Huh? It is a circular ruse. I'm telling you right now. I need to be famous for this one thing. One thing. Hold on.
1842, doesn't that drop?
What? Oh my God. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need to stop it. Oh my God. I know what happened. Oh my God. Oh my God. So this dude, basically, this lawyer for another lawyer, took Edison data that he thought was from the New York Times, created his own spreadsheet, added columns that did a sum of like because in each of the columns, it's basically like a small number in one column, and then the next column, the corresponding number is higher, right? Okay, so maybe you start out with 225 votes, and then it ends up being 1,000 votes. What he did is the cell where he figured out the difference between those two numbers, he put as a negative. He put it as a negative. He put it as a negative. I don't know what's happening anymore. I mean, that's what I think is happening here. I could be wrong. Easily, 14 years ago, I couldn't walk or stand because of it. Meds were not, of course they wouldn't help. Got the medical, but that's good, but still. Relief. Oh, felt relief in neck in the first 2 weeks off all meds except anxiety. Yeah. Oh, man. Easily, I'm so happy that you got a little bit of relief in that, and I hope that it just keeps going. Fuck it. I'm really sorry that it's really good that you're going through it, doing much better, still have days. Oh, I imagine. Yeah, your face does kill me. I don't know what your face looks like, and it probably wouldn't kill me, I'll bet. Anyway, all right, we're going to continue with this moron, but I'm going to tell you right now, this guy fucked up big time. If I'm right, he fucked up big time.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no, I
sure.
think I do mean 19.
Oh. I mean, I have terrible Excel skills. I cannot run a macro.
No, I can't read these numbers. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nobody can. And they don't mean anything, sir. Let me pause it. There it is. So see what I'm saying? 220, the red one.
Could you scroll down a bit more, please?
225 to 18,768.
That's much better as far as the size.
If the votes increased, I guess, I don't know what this is really showing. I mean, are you kidding me right now? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
You need to go down, Emily.
This is so dumb. Look, every one of them is this. Jesus Christ. Some went down, but he didn't count that.
Yeah, so that's.
So I don't know if that's a count. I have no idea what this is. There's no fucking labels on any of the columns.
Whatever that means.
Because you're obstructing justice is what you're doing.
This information was also available from the states, correct? The vote tallies as they were being reported.
Sexy hot therapy.
To go back to my marathon metaphor,
you
if
are
there
a
were
strong
cheating
person.
that were
That takes a lot of
in the
strength.
middle, I don't know if these data were available.
I know chronic
if
pain,
you only show that
and it makes you
who's at the
fucking
finish
grumpy.
line, that doesn't tell you what happened to get there.
Let me ask you a little bit about the finish line. And I think one of the issues that you had was with the absentee ballots being counted and reported, and that changing Trump's lead into Biden's lead.
I'm sorry, where did I have that issue?
Okay, well, you understood. You can take that down, Emily. Sure. Oh, sure, please.
We go to the top, first page.
Yeah, let's go to the top because really it explains everything. Yeah, okay. But the first page. Emily, come on. No, I'm just kidding. Emily's been a champion throughout this entire trial, so we love Emily. We love Emily of the DC bar. She does a stellar job.
The very first page.
She puts up with a lot of crap. You know, they have different chairs every time of these panels because I think what they do is recruit lawyers to serve on these panels of discipline.
References to Google Docs in the third and fourth bullet points. Do you see those?
Yes.
Are those the Google Docs that you were talking about?
Ooh,
yes.
Terrible.
Yes.
Get the data.
Yes.
That you use to build your own data.
Yes.
Did.
Appended. Yes.
You did. No, you used it to build your own data.
Use the data to create your own
right.
analysis. Okay. Are those links still active?
Can we go to them right now?
Let me ask this differently.
Can we go to
Do
it
we
right now?
have those original?
Yeah, do we have
Google
those
Docs?
documents?
Have we checked to see if those links are active?
I like it.
No, I have not, but we can.
Joseph, you know, are those links still active? Can we retrieve the source material?
One's Pennsylvania and one's Georgia. There's 2 links of Google Docs that he used for his data.
I don't know if they're still active or not, but I'd be happy to swear under penalty of perjury that I can give you the exact documents I downloaded.
Well, that's not really helpful because you're a fucking criminal, but okay.
Are they on your
Thanks for
exhibit list
playing.
at present?
Yeah, and?
No, because the exhibit list is flat. I have the emails still. So, and I have the spreadsheets on, on the computer somewhere in a
somewhere.
As I understand it, the spreadsheets we've been looking at were your creation from the Google Docs
appended
site that you looked at.
Right. I just added things off to the margin.
Downloaded and added.
So I have those spreadsheets.
But
when I
put them in my
exhibit list, it's printed on paper. It's not a spreadsheet anymore. But I have the email and I have the spreadsheets.
Well, I mean, in fact, if you have what you downloaded at the time, that's actually even better than pulling up what's there now.
Is it?
I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see the author of the original Google Doc.
So I can do that at lunch or sooner if you want. Do it now if you want, but it seems like lunch would be better.
Oh yeah, okay.
Unless I'm sorry, do you want them now?
No, I just.
We'd like to have them at some point.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to provide them to Megan over lunch, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And we can move them, and you can move them into evidence, or you can move them into evidence.
I'm not sure they're evidence of anything, but they're you can have them. I'm not gonna, if you want me to move them into evidence, I will, but.
Well, that's generally the procedure. Okay. We'll be able to look at them and look at your
And
if there are any from.
And so,
parties.
Given that it's a spreadsheet, is there some special rule about that? Because, it's not going to be 8.5 by 11 paper and 14.5. I mean, how should I provide them? Or should I work that out with Megan again?
Electronically, and that's how all the exhibits are filed anyway.
As you submitted as a data?
Pardon?
You submitted as a data document?
Meaning
I assume so.
Yes, you can submit it as the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
That would be the optimal way.
Okay, great. And so just to be clear, so I don't have to make this clear in the filing in prefatory to the email, to Megan. There's a 50-50 chance that I kept the pristine spreadsheet that I downloaded.
Oh, there's a 50-50 chance?
I then
wait a minute.
onto it.
You just said under penalty.
Just delete my columns, and that would be this. I mean, I didn't change any of the data.
Oh yeah, sure you didn't. Here's the thing. A minute ago, he said, under penalty of perjury, I can give you the original documents that I downloaded. That's what he said. I heard it. You heard it. Now he just said, there's a 50-50 chance I have the original. Baby, come kiss me while you're fucking me, okay? Because this is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
What it is that you went to as your data set.
And if I'm not sure if when I was asking you initially about this, Mr. Joseph, if that includes it was the Director Blue
Hi, Mind Truth.
blog spot.
What I don't recall is where I got the Google Docs links. Presumably, it was, I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have done it.
I don't know.
I'm guessing
it's just
that
one
they
of the most
came,
important
that the
underpinnings of
blog
my
spot
data.
might have had
Okay.
something about here's the New York Times data, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
And all I cared about, I didn't care what Blue Director said or didn't say necessarily. I was interested in the data.
Let's show you the
analyzing
website again that he was looking at.
And that
let's go back to that.
The New York Times.
Okay.
As I recall.
Because Doug Ross said it was. Where is it? Here we go. This is what he relied on, folks. This is where he got the Google Sheets.
A little bit, and
this is where he got the Google
the
Sheets.
2020, the general election in November of 2020. I mean, both the general election and the primaries were going on through the pandemic, correct?
The blog spot. He got it from the fucking blog spot.
That there was a substantial increase by voters of using absentee or mail-in ballots.
Oh, nice. Doug Ross with a gun. Sweet. Weird. Oh, yeah, this guy looks totally legit.
I suppose I should just do you the courtesy of answering yes.
Totally legit. Not crazy at all.
You don't have to do me any courtesies. I'm asking you a question.
Oh, here's an infographic.
What it reminds me of, though, is Rahm Emanuel's famous "Never let a crisis go to waste." So I think yes, the answer to your question is yes.
There's nothing.
But I think it was abused as well.
Where's your what really happened? Oh no, here we go. Media
you were
explainer.
Aware that
how to write headlines.
A number of states, the majority of
Obama's
voters
community
voted either
organizing.
absentee or mail-in.
This guy's
correct?
he's got issues. He's got unresolved issues.
I said, are you aware?
Yes, I think you can answer that.
To be honest, I'm probably, if I had to bet, I'd guess yes rather than no, but I really probably don't know.
And you understood that the reason for that is because we were living through a pandemic.
That's correct.
Okay. And you also knew, or did you know, that a number of states didn't allow tabulating or counting of ballots until Election Day?
I was aware of that in some states, yes.
Okay. Really?
And you were also aware that the counting of absentee ballots took longer.
When there's more of them.
Yeah.
And in the 2020 election, there were a lot more of them, correct?
Right. Remember?
Again, so what you said that the counting ballots took longer, and I'm not sure if that's true on a ballot by ballot basis, but when there's more of them, then all things being equal, it will take longer.
Okay.
And you're aware that in urban areas, there are usually many more voters.
Jim, I'm so sorry. Everyone's safe, though.
Reasonable.
I hope.
And you're aware, too, that in urban areas, or a lot of urban areas, lean more Democratic, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were also aware that
really
Trump
true?
had been discouraging voters from voting absentee or with mail-in ballots.
I wasn't really following it then.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So no.
Okay.
You weren't aware of that.
Right.
You were aware,
Noted.
however, that
Hope you didn't acknowledge it in a tweet or anything, shithead.
municipalities and the counties didn't report votes on a ballot by ballot basis.
I'm sorry. What does that mean?
So the chart or the I guess the spreadsheet that you just showed us, you understood that when the municipalities and or counties were reporting their votes, they didn't do it on a ballot by ballot basis.
Right, incrementally,
Right.
time.
So you were aware that they reported in batches.
I think.
Haven't heard from
Again,
Paulina, but I
really
believe
sure I
Jay
followed it,
is in
from the limited
okay.
vantage point of my supposed New York Times data set. I wouldn't say in batches, I would say at time increments, which would show a batch difference perhaps from the prior time interval, but it's more a time interval thing than a batch thing.
So you believe that the municipalities were reporting ballots one by one as they were counted?
I didn't say that. I don't think. Like, let's say they reported every X minutes, or maybe just whenever someone pressed the button. But it wasn't an incremental stream, like you say, in the sense of ballot by ballot. But I don't know that they said, here's 10 more votes. I think they said, here's the score right now. And then a little bit later, they said, here's the score right now. And if there had been no change, it'd be the same score. And if there'd been some batches counted, then those batches would be added to whatever the prior score was.
Okay. And you understood that some municipalities wouldn't report any votes, until the tabulation had been completed.
No idea.
And you were also aware, based on press releases and news, whatever your source, that the actual voting or the actual tabulation would not be completed on election night, November 3rd.
I mean, I don't know that I knew that. I mean, I don't even remember, quite frankly, if it was over by the end of election night. It probably wasn't. And so that's what would have made me aware of that, the fact that it wasn't over. I mean, I think and maybe that's because they call an election sometimes before maybe every last vote is counted. And so I don't know the answer to your question, to be honest.
So you were unaware of states issuing press releases telling the public that the tabulations of votes may not be completed even by November 4th, but could take to the end of the week, given how many people were voting absentee.
That sounds familiar. But I mean, it's not something I was following in great detail.
So I'm trying to understand too, your belief that there might have been fraud. Is your belief that there might have been fraud because there were votes that were tabulated and reported on November 4th that were more heavily favored Joseph Biden?
What? I don't know. I'm just a baby. I don't know.
Again, fraud's not my main thing.
Yeah,
I was responding to a data set that had anomalies in it. So if we're talking about that email, it was just like, what are these like chunks of negative numbers? What's that about?
Yeah,
that's what I was asking about there.
Chunks and chunks.
The predicate for fraud that you mentioned was not something that was on my mind.
Right,
Or
I wasn't.
So you would agree that there, with the fact that because Biden received a greater share of absentee ballots that were counted on the morning of November 4th, that's no indication of fraud.
Right. What? I don't know.
it's certainly no indication of fraud. No.
Okay, I don't know what that means because I was looking
Mr. Joseph, I think you've already alluded to this, but you were also involved in litigation involving the 2020 election, correct?
But yes. I believe she
and
made it through.
You were special counsel to the Attorney General for the state of Texas?
Yes.
Okay. And you helped prepare, and if you didn't file it, were aware of the filing of an action or original complaint.
You don't determine anomalies.
On behalf, with Texas as the,
I guess I'd like to know where this is going, and so I object to the relevance.
Well, one of the reasons why is because I think you've indicated that you were brought in at the last minute in the Gomer case. And what I'm trying to establish is that you were quite familiar with the allegations in the other complaints. And in fact, you had filed one yourself or helped file one yourself.
Okay. My interest, as I said, was the Elections and Electors Clause violations. That's where you change the rules, but don't get it to change from the state legislature.
Famous Electors Clause violations.
And we were living through a clarification of what the rules are for that. At that time that Texas versus Pennsylvania was filed, there was a 3-justice concurrence in Bush v. Gore that said it's possible to cross a line there. Now we have some more guidance from the Supreme Court in Moore versus Harper, but it doesn't resolve the question one way. Well, it resolves what it resolves. Right. So a state Supreme Court can make some changes, but there are some justices on the U.S. Supreme Court that say, well, a federal court can't.
What?
In other words, some of the more majority saying it's okay for a state Supreme Court to make changes, wouldn't go so far as to say that a federal court can. That still doesn't answer whether an administrator in the executive branch, like a secretary of state, can do that.
Bitch,
And
where'd
that
you
might
get your
also
data?
depend on whatever that state's laws address. So my thing with Texas versus Pennsylvania was about, hey, you're changing the rules without getting the right permission to change them. So for example, oh, there's a pandemic, let's not have a witness requirement for the absentee voting we allowed. Well, that changes the nature of the vote. You don't know who won. So I'm sure they counted them accurately and all that, those absentee votes.
Massive
But if
single
you
people.
don't,
What?
if you didn't get the
what?
If those absentee ballots that the legislature allowed to count didn't have the signature, the witness requirement that the legislature mandated, then those votes are illegal. And they
Okay, let me tell you what's going on here. I've been listening to this bullshit for the last 3 years. So yeah, I'm a little sensitive when it comes to this topic. Oh my God. I can't, these people and their lies is just amazing to me. Okay, we're going to continue. I'll do it at the break.
They don't count, or, in God's eyes or whatever.
Their
if they're
remedy,
really possible.
I can't wait. Their remedy for all of this, in every trial, every case, every hearing, every whatever, every testimony, every whatever, their remedy for their injury or whatever is to not count votes, to classify votes as illegal because the legislature shouldn't have made changes, or the state election officials like Secretary of State should not have made COVID changes to the process, even though they are the ones in charge of the process. And we were all there when this happened, right? We all lived through it. It didn't not happen. So the flim flam, the flim flam that you're hearing right now has been the same flim flam of, we just don't want you to count those votes. And fun fact, they are likely Biden voters because of the mail-in and the fact that there were more Biden votes in the mail-in and absentee vote. Yeah, like overall. And their remedy, how you fix it, when you ask the court, fix it, and they say, okay, what do you want me to do to fix it? Or whatever. Their remedy is, don't count those votes. Don't count the ones that came in that weren't counted on election night, because on election night, our guy was winning. Because that was typically the in-person vote. And that leaned more heavily to Trump because he told everyone, don't vote by mail, go to the polls. I was there. You were there. I'll be Trump. You know it's true. Hi, Shotzi. I'm so sorry. Shotzi Page, how are you? Cute emojis. All right, we'll continue. Sorry. I'll stop. Sort of. Maybe someday.
The separate all out. They shouldn't have been counted. And so what you have is a situation where we don't really legally, I'm not saying Trump won. We don't know who won with the maximum number, the larger number of legal votes, because these,
I don't know.
sometimes it was federal litigation, largely by Democrats before the election. Sometimes it was secretaries of state, largely Democrat, but not uniformly. And so that's what I was.
Good morning, Shotzi.
In
sorry.
the
It's
Texas versus Pennsylvania about.
There's a link at the top of the chat that has background on what you're hearing.
Texas, being the plaintiff.
I know it's a little weird and esoteric. I think this is esoteric,
I guess.
But still may be important. Who knows?
I wasn't involved in that part of that complaint and process. I was the elections and electors clause side of it, and so.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I won't guarantee to you that no fraud occurred, and I won't guarantee to you that fraud occurred. I'm agnostic about that. I'd have to look at it. I don't know that
I can tell you.
We have all the data.
It.
My shtick, as I said, was
what's your shtick?
The electors and election clause violation.
Yeah, just the electors and the election clause.
Porter, we're at 10:48. We're
Okay.
still planning on having Mr. Richard join us at 11.
Yeah, and we definitely want to start with him, I guess, on time, just so that he is finished
And they're
before the
going to
day.
continue with the
Let's take a
cross-examination.
break. I guess it would be a 12-minute break, come back at 11. Will he be available on the screen?
I think so.
All right, great.
He's got the
And
Zoom link.
I'm
If
going
I
to actually
remember,
read you that article.
Mr. Byrne, are you the one who, were you in the middle or had you started your cross-examination of Mr. Richard?
I have not started it, sir, and I think I was the next one on deck.
Sweet. Thank you
at
so
11
much.
o'clock,
I really
had
appreciate
intended to
your
start
time.
the
That means a
cross of
lot.
Mr. Richard.
Welcome to the
All right,
lounge.
very well. We'll reconvene at 11 a.m. then. And
Thank you.
Joseph, you'll be off the stand until we're finished with Mr. Richard.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So that's a lot. I know it's a lot. I apologize. I'm going to read you the article that's actually pinned at the top so that we can kind of get our bearings, although I realize that's also difficult. But welcome, Shotzi. I'm so glad you're here. Hopefully you find something interesting to learn about or talk about, or just a really great group of people in chat. I'll tell you that. Some fucking smart, fucking nice people. So there's that. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm pretty chill. So what you're witnessing is the disciplinary hearing. So one of my favorite things about this whole political, or judicial, hold on, let me just do one thing at a time and do it hopefully better. Oh, actually they had been on a break. Oh my God, we might be okay. Did they come back? I hope they didn't come back. Whoops. Oh, good. All right. So they didn't come back yet. Fantastic. But we were a little behind, so we'll be catching up, kind of thing. So the next person, I think I'm going to go ahead and just say the next person that's going to be testifying, it's going to be the cross-examination of Stephen Richer. And if you remember that name, Stephen Richer was the very brave Republican, I think, county clerk for Maricopa County, Arizona, right? One of the hotbeds of election denialism, etc., fuckery, all kinds of stuff. And yes, and oh boy, a lot happened yesterday, so I really encourage you to listen to the last part where Rusty Bowers, who is the former head of the Speaker of the State House in Arizona, Rusty Bowers, he testified yesterday and he's being very clear about what happened and how he was pressured to do things and who was involved in pressuring him. So there's going to be a lot of stuff, I think, that comes from, or God willing, maybe. Anyway, the point is that Stephen Richer will now be on the stand after we come back from break. So we're going to move away from the prior lawyer that was being questioned. Yeah, yesterday was a lot. And Stephen Richer will be cross-examined, and Stephen really commented. He really testified yesterday about the process and where the safeguards are within the process, what fraud claims were made and how those were debunked. I mean, he went into great detail, which is great. So that's why these hearings are so important. And I know it's a little naughty and I get it and I'll ask for forgiveness, but I didn't ask for but this hearing, this detail is so important to what is going to happen post 2020, post November 5th. That's what's going to be key, is understanding what these maggot brains, sorry, not sorry, have concocted out of the big lie, and how they have used that as a drumbeat that has caused people not to have trust in elections, not to have trust in election workers, for some extreme people to make threats of bodily harm to people, which is ridiculous if you really just put it in a normal context. So that's where, I mean, my anger gets really big. You know, election denialism, I think, is maybe my hottest trigger because I believe it has done so much damage to us as a country. And if you want to talk about where division comes from, I think that is a large part of that pie. And Rusty Bowers stood up as a diehard frickin' he stood up. He stood up as a Republican, and I probably agree with Rusty Bowers on nothing, right? We probably have completely different worldviews, but he knew something was rotten, and not even the pressure of the goddamn president at the time calling him, like hitting his digits. Not even that pressure from the head of his own party and the head of the free world, whatever, was telling him to do something, but he knew it was wrong. His integrity. That's where it is. That's what's missing a little, is the integrity of saying, I can't do that. You're asking me to do something I can't do. You know? And for someone, too many of folks on that train have just accepted that either they've been forced to go along with this lie, or they believe it because they want to believe it, because they like strong men or whatever it is, whatever their kind of damage is, you know, whatever. And the reason I say damage isn't because I want some kind of echo chamber. I believe in the power of differences and protests. I believe people should have been there on January 6th, not in the building and not threatening people and not hurting. And the people who planned that J6 melee, those are the people I want arrested. Those are the people I want arrested. All right, we're back.
Mr. Richard.
Sorry, yeah.
No,
Old school
he's not in the
Mormon. Oh,
waiting room or anything.
yikes. Oh, dear.
All right,
He's a Dominionist or whatever that is, Shotzi. Oh, man. Yikes. Anyway, I hope that was just a little orienting. I know this is very disorienting type of stuff, so I apologize.
Correct. He is not in the waiting room. He has not joined yet.
Stephen hasn't joined
All
yet.
right, we'll have to wait.
Okay. They're going to wait. So I think while they're doing that, I think what again, this is important because they have spent a lot of time, and by they, I mean people like Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, Patrick Byrne, who is now beat it off to fucking Dubai because he knows he fucking broke laws. And guess what? Recall who just went to prison? Who's in prison right now? Oh, that's Tina Peters. Oh, who paid for Tina Peters' defense? Oh, that's Patrick Byrne. It's not a fucking conspiracy. It's a fucking they say what they're doing. You know, it's just listening. It's better listening skills. That's what it is. So I think that this is like this didn't go away. It didn't go away. This is not old news. This is actually probably new news to a lot of people, which is what my drive is media literacy. And that is, let's help people easily understand how we got to this place, how we are here right now.
Right,
because I believe that at least some people, if they know how we got here, are better equipped to say, okay, I'm sensing bullshit. You know what I mean? I can see bullshit now. And that, I think, I don't know. I always come up with, kind of hopium, I guess. I guess he would call it hopium. But I think we can. I think we can increase media literacy in this country. There's Stephen Richard down in the bottom, right above the weed, right above the beautiful bud. That's my well, it's a beautiful bud. It's not my beautiful bud, but the picture of it is my beautiful bud, I guess. Is it our beautiful bud? No, because I didn't do anything. I just put the picture up. But that's fine. It's someone's beautiful bud.
I believe that
we've learned from him that his time may be limited today. I don't know if you want to inquire with him about what that might mean in terms of
Maybe turn
scheduling.
them up a little bit.
Particularly given how long process on for the other state witnesses.
Well, let me just set it right now. Do you know what his schedule is for today?
No, he just said that there are emergencies, so that he has to deal with.
All right, is he still not in the waiting room? Oh,
No,
there.
he's in.
He's right there.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Richard. Thank you for rejoining us. I'm just going to administer the oath one more time since there's been a bit of a gap between your past testimony and today. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Different here because I'm an
Yes.
atheist. So I invented Crispmas, you know, like
right, Ms.
CRISP
Byrne.
as in Peter,
Thank you,
MAS.
Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Risher.
That's my holiday.
Morning.
And it involves
You understand what this proceeding is all about, don't you?
This is a cross.
It's for a disciplinary matter for the bar of the District of Washington, D.C.
That's correct. And in this proceeding, you have an understanding that the Office of Disciplinary Counsel is trying to take away Brandon Johnson's bar license because of lawsuits challenging the results of the 2020 election. You understand that, right?
Mr. Chair, I think that's a mischaracterization of what the process is.
But also I because Mr. Richard's time is limited, and I don't know how long he's going to be available today. It would be really helpful to, I guess, put parameters on the cross-examination to deal with issues.
Well, let me ask you, what is your schedule for today, Mr. Richard? How long do you have?
Ideally 1 hour.
1 hour. All right, well, that will finish within that time, but go ahead, Mr. Byrne. I'm sorry, I missed the last question was to the effect, does he understand the nature of the proceeding against Mr. Johnson?
That the Office of Disciplinary Counsel is trying to take Mr. Johnson's bar license away.
I'm not sure I understand what the basis of objection is. That is the relief you're asking for, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is the relief that we're asking for, but I don't know that that fully encapsulates the actual process.
All right. I think he can answer the question. Go ahead, Mr. Richard. Do you understand the nature, what the objective of this is?
Can you please repeat the question, Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Byrne, Mr. Johnson is.
I'm sorry. I just see on the screen that it says Brandon Johnson.
No problem. No problem.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's
Q
Byrne?
is big, huh?
Christopher Byrne, yes.
I know. You guys have that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oops, sorry. I'll come back.
My question to you was, you understand that the Office of Disciplinary Counsel in this proceeding is trying to take Mr. Johnson's bar license away. Right?
No, but they didn't say that.
I did not. I don't know
That's not what they said, by the way.
I didn't know what is being sought. I know I was asked to speak to the administration of the 2020 election.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did the Office of Bar Counsel provide you with any materials prior to your testimony today?
I believe just the exhibits that were presented yesterday.
Okay, they didn't provide you with the charges or explain what was going on?
I don't believe I saw the charges.
Okay. Well, let's put it this way. You have nothing against Mr. Johnson personally, do you?
I do not.
In fact, you don't even know who he is, do you?
I don't know Mr. Johnson.
And you've never seen him before?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Oh.
So today you want your testimony to be objective, right?
That one.
I want my testimony to be truthful.
And does that involve objectivity as far as you're concerned?
Stop it. Oh, bitter Betty.
Involves telling the truth. I guess I don't know what you mean by objectivity. I would say sometimes, you know, to the extent that if you think the truth is objective, then yes.
Okay. So let's ask it a different way. What you're testifying to is not tinged with any political ideology, is it?
I don't know how politics even really plays in here.
Okay, and so it's not tinged with any unrelated.
We're going to put
political
Sydney
motives,
right where she belongs.
I don't even know what Mr. Johnson's politics are.
Well, nor your political motives, right?
I have no political motives in being here.
Okay.
In fact, I'd say I have no motives in being here, quite frankly. As I mentioned, I would infinitely prefer to be doing something else.
I'm sure you would.
I put Sydney in the right room
too, I'm sure. You don't have any trouble with someone resorting to the courts to question an election process?
Of course not. I regularly talk about how that's an important feature of election administration, and it's an important feature of our society generally, and it's an important feature of the post-election sort of reconciliation and process.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys all reported to Sydney Powell, so she needs to be there.
Can you characterize the general atmosphere in Arizona surrounding the 2020 election in any particular way?
Can you tell me your feelings?
Adjusting things.
Can you testify to your feelings?
Can you give us a characterization of the atmosphere surrounding the 2020
He already
election?
had a bunch yesterday.
Can you specify a time period?
I know, he's
please?
a Republican.
Well, let's just say from January 2019 through February 2021.
Different at different points in time.
I'm sorry?
Different at different points in time.
Okay, so in 2019, can you describe it?
I think, for me, it was a hopeful, exciting time, and obviously COVID wasn't a thing then, and so going to lots of events and certainly seeing within the Republican Party a lot of hope, a lot of interest, a lot of excitement, and the party thought that it could retake some of the positions it had lost, and so yeah, I guess that's how I would describe what I was seeing, which of course is only what I was seeing.
Right, and was there one of suspicion in the election procedures?
That movie.
It started building up, yeah, especially following the 2018 election. There was more of an interest in election administration.
And in fact, you authored a report about the 2018 election in 2019, didn't you?
I did with the Arizona Republican Party, yes.
Okay. And let's talk about that a little bit. You recall that report that you did?
At least somewhat.
Okay. And you did a preliminary report in January of 2019, didn't you?
Yes, and we discussed basically a few, the curing period. We discussed the emergency voting period, and I want to say one other item were the three main focal points of that.
Well, we'll go through some of the focal points, but you started that off, your preliminary report, by noting that on the evening of Tuesday, November 6th in 2018, that Arizona voters went to bed believing that some people had won an election, and then when they woke up, despite an Associated Press declaration of victory, that was not the result. You recall that?
Yeah, that was new territory for Arizona.
Okay, and that scenario kind of repeated itself in 2020, didn't it?
No.
It flipped, actually.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Well, voting behavior in Arizona flipped in 2020. So in 2018, Republicans disproportionately returned their ballots early so that Republican candidates had, as I now know, Republican candidates had a lead on election night, and then slowly Democratic candidates either caught up or passed certain Republican candidates. And then in 2020, given some of the conversation about election administration, Democrats in Arizona disproportionately returned their ballots early, and Republicans disproportionately either dropped off their early ballots on election day or voted in person on election day. And so you saw that while, for instance, my opponent, the Democrat in the race, was up by more than 90,000 votes on the evening of November 3rd, 2020. It was the Republicans, myself included, who came back, if you will, which is a mischaracterization of the process, but I think is sort of the colloquially sports use term.
Okay. Well, is it fair to say that in 2018, the fact that people went to bed thinking that an election had been won, waking up finding that the election had not been won, you characterize that as these reversals of fortune in 3 statewide elections left many Arizona voters confused and upset, especially Republicans who felt they had had the rug pulled out from under them. You recall saying that in your introduction?
I don't, but that sounds perfectly plausible. And like I said, this was new territory for election administration in Arizona, and especially for the Republicans in Arizona.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the same situation happened in 2020, that in the morning when certain voters woke up thinking that an election had gone one way, that they were confused and upset?
No.
You don't think that was the same?
I don't think Democrats were upset on Wednesday morning.
Well, I'm sure they weren't, but I'm not talking about Republican or Democrat. I'm talking about voters in general. If voters went to bed thinking the election in 2020 had gone one way and woke up finding it was the other way, is it fair to say that those voters, as in 2018, felt confused and upset?
No.
No.
You don't think that's fair?
Because you don't know what their reaction was. That's hearsay,
Okay.
number one.
Did it come to your attention that some people felt after the 2020 election that the election results were not correct?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, okay. Is it fair to characterize that as being confused and upset at the result?
Oh, were people confused and upset about the 2020 election administration? Yes, of course.
That's why we're here.
Absolutely. So in 2020, the fact
Republican
that
people.
some people went to bed thinking the election had been won, woke up thinking it had been
So
lost.
is that
They were
justification for
confused
lying
and
in court?
upset. That was cause for the Arizona Republican Party, Jonathan
Sydney, sit
Lyons, remember? He asked you to
Sit
launch
down.
a review of the election. Do you recall that?
No, you said 2020.
No
I
lap
apologize, in
dances.
2018.
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Okay. So in response to that situation, an investigation was undertaken.
Let's talk about the early birds. Okay.
In 2018?
Let's talk about the early birds.
Yes.
We're supposed to count before they go to
So
bed?
you understand the difference between an ultimate conclusion as to whether or not an election was accurate versus having reason to investigate an election to determine if it was accurate. You understand the difference, right?
Wait, what?
I'm sorry, can you
Yeah,
one
can
more
you
time?
say it again?
Do you understand the difference between the conclusion that an election was accurate or inaccurate, as opposed to a conclusion that there was reason to investigate whether an election was accurate or
But
inaccurate?
there wasn't.
Do I understand those to be different things?
Yes.
Yes.
And indeed, in 2018, there was reason to investigate the election. Isn't that right?
There's my little stick. Yay.
Yes.
And in 2020, there was reason to investigate the election, right?
There were some things that I thought were appropriate for investigation. Yes.
Okay. And indeed, a lot of people thought a lot of things were appropriate for investigation in 2020. Isn't
That's
that correct?
dumb. That's a dumb.
Certainly.
Stop it. Object.
Okay.
What is the fucking? Oh my god. I hate these people
Now,
sometimes.
one
Even
of
though I'm not a
the
lawyer.
objectives of your 2018, your study of the 2018 election was to determine what, if anything, had gone wrong, or what, if anything, needed to be improved. Is that right?
Yes, although as I mentioned previously, I think we had a few specific focuses again, the emergency voting period, the ballot curing deadline extension, and Again, I would.
Yeah.
I think there was one more in there.
From the fuck your
We'll
feelings
go through
crowd,
them.
we
I've
present
got good memory. I
feelings.
don't want to tax it too much here. I'll make it easy for you. Before we do, however, Mr. Fontes was the reporter during the 2018 election cycle, right?
Yes.
Nothing more than.
And he was the recorder up through the 2020 election, right?
Yes, but he had different responsibilities at that point.
Okay. Is it fair to say that he was responsible for administering the 2020 election?
At that point, so the difference between the 2018 election and the 2020 election is in the 2018 election, he was almost entirely responsible. In 2019, the Board of Supervisors reclaimed some of its statutory authority. And so in 2020, it was a joint administration between the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and Recorder Fontes at the time.
Okay, so those two bodies had primary responsibility in 2020, whereas Mr. Fontes had it alone in 2018.
Correct.
Okay. So in 2018, you described Mr. Fontes' role with regard to the decision to expand emergency voting. And is it fair to say that you concluded that it seemed plausible that the Recorder Fontes expanded emergency voting to partially accomplish what the Arizona legislature considered
Well, you tell that
or refused
somebody
to do?
that they're the bestest in the world.
I think
Thank
it's
you,
plausible,
forgetful
yes.
benefactor.
Okay. And is it fair to say that type of tinkering with the election was one of the reasons why you had some uncertainty and disquietude about the 2018 election?
No.
Okay. And why not?
Yeah.
I thought that it was maybe I don't even know what the statutory violation would have been, but we thought it was a item that maybe needed to be statutorily addressed, as was done in 2019. But the scale was never anything that could have come close to having a material impact on the 2018 election.
All right, so let's just make it clear. What we're talking about is that Mr. Recorder Fontes did not have the statutory authority to do what he did with regard to emergency voting. And what you're saying is that the impact of that was so small that it didn't cause any disquietude about the 2018 election. Is that fair?
I actually think that he maybe had the statutory authority, but it was something that maybe was sort of done last minute, I think is what I concluded at the time, and done by talking to certain partisans but not talking to others. And so again, I think we teed this up for the state legislature in 2019 to maybe revisit.
Well, let me read you your conclusion there and see if this refreshes your recollection. This review preliminarily concludes that it is plausible that Recorder Fontes expanded emergency voting in a manner inconsistent with the intent of state statutes to achieve what the legislature considered but refused to authorize.
There it is.
Okay. Now, another subject which you examined with regard to that 2018 election was the emergency nature of the emergency voting centers. Isn't that right?
Put me down for a minute.
Yes.
And basically, you were saying that it really wasn't an emergency to justify the exercise of emergency powers. Is that fair?
I think we were skeptical that the requirements of that voting period were being sufficiently broadcast to voters, and that it wasn't just being used as an expansion of the early voting period.
So is it fair to say that your conclusion was the resulting impression that emergency voting centers were open to voters, possibly unavailable on election day, but requiring no further proof or testimony of an emergency is a significant departure from emergency voting processes under Recorder Purcell?
I think you're reading directly, so I'm going to say yes.
Okay. All right. So is it fair to say that's a significant departure from longstanding election processes? It could be or was in 2018 a source of disquietude and confusion for the elections.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also addressed the rehabilitation of ballots issue, didn't you?
Yes, and that's what I called now the curing process.
I think that's fair. Can you describe what the issue was for us, if you recall?
Yeah, so the curing process is when the recorder's office cannot confirm that the signature on the return ballot affidavit envelope is consistent with the signatures in the voter's file. And so at that point, the recorder's office can reach out to the voter to ascertain if the voter really did return the ballot packet. And they do that by asking usually personal identifying information to ensure that it is the voter. And at that time period, I think that the time period for doing that
might have some lyrics
was,
maybe.
I want to say, ill-defined, I guess. And Recorder Fontes changed the practices from what the practices had been under Recorder Purcell, is I believe the sort of the gravamen of that section.
Yeah, and in fact, you noted that Recorder Fontes departed from Recorder Purcell's tradition and instead chose to continue rehabilitating ballots after Election Day, right?
Right.
Okay, and that was the source of disquietude and confusion, right?
Correct.
So, and that was enough to prompt a lawsuit from the Arizona Republican Party, wasn't
it? Did they file a lawsuit on that one?
Well, apparently, according to the footnote that you put in there, that yes, the Republican Party claims that, quote, principles of equal protection cannot abide the county recorder defendants' fashioning of ad hoc deadlines and variegated procedures for the disposition of facially deficient early ballots.
So clearly they did, and I guess the argument there would have been that those ballots were receiving sort of preferential treatment such that they violated the equal protection clause. I don't think that won, but I do that the statute was changed in 2019.
Well, whether it won, sitting here today, would you say that there's nothing wrong with them having brought a lawsuit regarding that issue?
Oh yeah, surely. No, I agree.
And the attorney shouldn't have been sanctioned for doing that, should they?
I don't believe any sanction case was brought against those attorneys, and I have no reason to think that was inappropriate.
Okay.
There you go. This isn't bad. It's probably not great, but it's not bad. You have any more questions? Sydney would like a word.
In 2018, you cite an Arizona Capital Times story that said that mail-in ballots that were counted after Election Day, of the ballots, 7,240 were flagged with questionable signatures, and the recorder's office validated 6,933 of them, ballots that Recorder Fontes acknowledges would not have been counted under Recorder Purcell. You recall something like that?
I don't, but that seems perfectly, that seems consistent with what I sort of vaguely remember.
And that situation was enough, caused enough disquietude for you to conduct an investigation to see what went on there.
Yes, like I said, the Arizona Republican Party was interested in that, and I was part of the team that did that. Yes.
Okay. Now, you also addressed partisanship in the conduct of the election procedures in 2018, didn't you?
I'm going to guess that the answer to that is yes, given that you're looking at the report. So I'll let you tell me.
No, I want your memory and tell me if you recall this that you state. However, this review analyzes if Recorder Fontes behaved in a partisan manner that was implicitly or explicitly advantageous or detrimental to Arizona Democrats or Republicans.
Mr. Chair, at this point, I'm going to object. I'm failing to see the relevance of where we're going, and I think that we're getting far afield from what the direct was from Mr. Richard.
All right, Mr. Byrne, can you explain what the relevance of your last question and this general line of questions is? It's certainly not clear to me either.
Well, I'm sorry if it's not clear, but what we're going to wrap together here is the fact that much of the same issues, many of the same issues, were longstanding issues in Arizona, and many of those issues caused justifiable and understandable concern among citizens and voters, and many of those same issues resulted in the initiation of lawsuits, and none of those lawsuits resulted in the type of highly partisan attacks on lawyers who brought the lawsuits to adjudicate legitimate, longstanding issues that had been extant in Arizona, certainly from 2018
You mean the consequences
through
of
2020,
lying in
and
court?
that atmosphere pervaded through the 2020 election. So if it's okay to bring lawsuits for these types of issues in 2018, in fact, it's not only okay, it's people's right to do it. And it's not only people's right to do it, it increases confidence in elections. And it's not only right to increase confidence in elections by letting the courts adjudicate issues.
I have one position. Let's move. Can you restate the question for this witness? But let's try and move into events that have some direct connection to 2020. If you want to argue that there are sufficient similarities between previous lawsuits and 2020, that may have some relevance.
No, it won't. Okay,
well, I would submit that it does, and this is
everybody lose your license
points
right
are
now.
Important points, so let's
turn them
get
in.
to it.
Do you have
If I could,
do they give you a physical license?
You recall that what you looked at, Mr. Richer, was whether Recorder Fontes behaved in a partisan manner that was implicitly or explicitly advantageous to one of the other parties, right?
Yes.
And that was something which was worthy of investigation and, if necessary, further action, right?
And are you implying now that Richard should be investigated?
Yes.
Yes.
For partisan,
And,
wait a minute. He's a Republican. How's this work?
The actions of Mr. Fontes, who was one of the principal responsible parties for the 2020 election, was doing these things in 2018.
What? Are you kidding me right
now?
Are we blaming
I was
Adrian
asked to say,
Fontes
where's
for
it
these
going?
guys
This is where
lying?
this is
What is
going.
going on here?
And you know here
what the fuck?
that Mr. Fontes made disparaging comments about some people who were complaining about his activity, but he made absolutely no comment, as you say, but the bring it comment stands in contrast to the absence of comments with regard to a suit filed by the Left of Center Arizona Advocacy Network, which alleged that the polling sites in all 40 vote center locations and at least 9 regular polling places failed to open at 6 a.m. You recall that?
Yes.
Okay.
You remember that?
And do you recall saying that these comments from Mr. Fontes have caused some Republican voters to reasonably question whether Recorder Fontes is a neutral arbiter of the election tabulation process? You recall that?
Yes.
Or one who lets his obvious disdain for the Republican Party influence his actions as Recorder.
Like, I mean, even I, as a sap, move on eventually. My God.
Did I remember that?
Let it go.
Yes.
Let it.
And you also noted in your report that that disparate treatment was accorded Republicans in Arizona when you state this narrative is further supported by the disparate treatment of Republican County Supervisor Churchy and Gallardo in the context of emergency voting centers. You recall saying that there was some disparate treatment there?
Yes, Chukri and Gallardo.
Okay.
You
Now,
lost,
Mr. Fontes not only had some, you noted not only his implicit partisanship, but you noted his explicit partisanship, right?
Again, it's been a little while, but I find that highly plausible.
Okay, and you noted 3 instances, one where he was coordinating with Kristen Sinema's campaign by privately disclosing information.
Right.
And
look at all these Democrats breaking rules and shit.
Did we come to a conclusion on that one?
A reporter Fontes coordinated with Democrat Kristen Sinema's campaign by privately disclosing the timing and location of the emergency voting centers without offering the same information to Republican Martha McSally's campaign.
Row or something.
Yeah, and again, was that a?
I'm gonna do that.
I can't remember whether that was an allegation that was investigated or whether that was a conclusion. But
you describe these as allegations of partisanship put forward by credible sources as follows, and that was one of them.
Okay.
I don't really have room for it, but that's fine. I'll make.
Do you recall that?
I'll make room.
Yes.
Okay. And you also addressed fraud and voting irregularities. Do you recall that in your study?
I think the F word is only used like once in that whole report or something.
Well, there's a whole paragraph, and you state that allegations of fraud in the 2018 Arizona elections reached the highest levels of American politics, with even the President of the United States claiming fraud and questioning the need for a new election.
Oh, such a Republican you were. What happened?
Sounds like something that would be said.
Why'd you leave us?
And in response to that, you state, this review evaluated individual reports of fraud or voting irregularities.
Yes, we did. Okay. And we did.
And okay.
So is it fair to say that if there are reports of fraud or voting irregularities, they should be evaluated? Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. You noted credible reports of voters receiving election day ballots that had been pre-marked with Democratic candidates. With a signed declaration of voter Ted Butler was illustrative. So you took the one signed declaration by a voter as illustrative of a problem that you looked into. Is that right?
We did look into that. That was a nothing burger.
Okay, but you did look into it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And the allegation was worthy of some kind of an examination,
Why
right?
didn't you look into my
Yes,
claims
that was one of the many things, as you're noting, that we examined in the paper.
No more questions.
This goes back to what I was saying before. Is it fair to say that irrespective of the result of an investigation, when you have credible accusations of fraud or irregularities, they are worthy of being investigated, right?
Absolutely. We run down things all the time in my office currently. And we hopefully are never dismissive of anything that anyone sends to us that hasn't been investigated yet. And as I mentioned in my testimony yesterday, fraud does happen in elections. And we've sent some of those cases to the Attorney General.
Okay.
You mean the communist Attorney General?
Yesterday, you drew some conclusions about the threats that had been made, right? You recall that?
We talked about the threats in the environment, just that we get many threats, that we've spent millions of dollars on security, that not a day goes by where somebody answering the phone for our office isn't told they're an effing traitor, and things of that nature.
Okay, and what you did beyond what you just testified to is that you said it was because of this particular Boyer-Ducey lawsuit. Is that right? You recall that?
I don't think that's what I said.
Oh, okay, so you didn't say that the threats were directly tied to that lawsuit.
I said that this lawsuit, of the many lawsuits filed following the 2020 election, was the only lawsuit that presented the type of fantastical claims that seemed to be the origin for so many of the violent comments that are continuously directed at my office and continue to be at least questioned in elections today, specifically with respect to Dominion.
Sorry, this is very serious.
And with respect
I feel
to
very badly. You know how
international
I feel about this. Damn it.
communications and international interference. I think this is the only complaint that even got in the ballpark of those types of allegations.
Okay. So do you recall what your statements to the Arizona Central given on August 18, 2022, when you said that because of the 2020, because of what went on in let's see. You pointed to Mr. Hornstra's indictment. Do you recall Mr. Hornstra being indicted?
He's indicted, and I think we have trial coming up in December.
Okay, good. But you also noted that you had received a deluge of voicemails, emails, and social media at the time in 2020, rather 2021, right?
Throughout 2021, throughout 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Okay, but you go on in that article to say that, quote, allegations from the Arizona Senate audit inspired many of the messages. Hornstra's voicemail came after the audit's Twitter account falsely accused election officials of deleting electronic databases, Richard said. Do you recall that?
Oh, absolutely. I recall that vividly. There was consistently sort of this allegation that election files and data had been deleted from the 2020 election, and then that really reached ahead when the you know,
because
to the
otherwise we'll go
I forget
insane.
the attorney's name yesterday, when
I.
they lied about the fact that we hadn't deleted election files, and then President Trump picked it up, and then it became this whole thing. And I think that's you know, connected to what Mr. Hornstra so strongly felt about our actions.
Right, but in your quotation, you tagged that to the Arizona Senate investigation, right? Not to one of the lawsuits.
Correct. That's they re-upped the deleted files allegation.
And then do you recall a quotation you gave to Jim Small for an article in Criminal Justice and Policing, August 17, 2022, when they were talking about the indictment of Mr. Hornstra? You stated that it was you were threatened, quote, because Hornstra opposed the Arizona Senate's partisan election review. I'm sorry, because you opposed the Arizona Senate's partisan election review.
Right.
You recall saying that?
Do you?
Nope.
But it dinner on Tuesday?
Sounds like something I would have said.
Okay. And then you put out an X, I guess Twitter post on August 17 saying, and BTW, this particular phone call was prompted by the audit, quote, war room account, paren, remember that, close paren, saying that we deleted electronic files.
BT dubs.
Those turned out to be ... not deleted, right?
Yeah.
So you tagged that particular thing to
they were mad at him
some kind of a war room broadcast. Do you recall that?
Again, I recall this very clearly. The Cyber Ninjas and their affiliates played upon an existing falsehood and lied about whether or not we deleted files. That then incited a whole bunch of really ugly comments. President Trump contributed to that as well. And Mr. Hornstra was one of many, but he was charged in, I think, 2022 or 2023 for making threats.
Hi,
I connected to the allegation that we had deleted files from the 2020 election.
Okay. All of that took place outside of the context of those lawsuits, right? Of the Boyer v. Ducey lawsuit.
Some of the same ideas, but not, it wasn't like Mr. Hornstra called and said like, based off of Boyer v. Ducey, I want to kill you.
Okay. Now,
really?
Let's talk about your election, your recent primary election. Did you recently have a primary?
Yes.
And what was the result of that?
Actually, we're not sure what the relevance of this line of questioning is. And again, I think we're going far afield from what his actual direct testimony was.
All right, Mr. Byrne, can you explain why we need to get into his, his primary?
This committee is entitled to give weight to whether to Mr. Risher's adherence to the law and Mr. Risher's personal bias and Mr. Risher's political advocacy, which we're going to show are contrary to his admonition earlier that he's just simply speaking objective truth and testifying without, well, I won't go beyond that.
Oh, that's fun.
No, I'm not sure how that really is relevant to anything in this proceeding. I don't know that I need to know we need to know his political views on issues other than something directly related to this lawsuit and whether his views of foreign policy, domestic policy, or anything of that nature has anything to do with this case. If you can tie it to something specific.
Email highlights disaster scams today,
maybe that would
citing
be
the
relevant.
AI pics that have been out there.
I'll tie
the
it
kid
to
with the
Mr.
puppy and all
Richard's
that, which are
personal
not real.
connection.
There is
with,
suffering, but it is not what is being portrayed in some of the media. So media literacy,
engaging in
be aware,
in questionable
scams
to the
about,
extent of engaging in questionable activities.
and Floridians, call this number. That is your link to services that are available to you. So please use that number right now to get information on anything that you might need if you're in the zones.
Is a personal bias.
And stay safe and stay out of standing water because it's probably got terrible bacteria in it. Thank you.
The committee is
that's the end of my
especially
TED Talk.
given the narrative that's surrounding this. This is something that the committee can and should assess when assessing Mr. Risher's testimony.
All right, why don't you ask him a question? We don't have a question pending
we
at the
shouldn't listen
moment.
to him because basically he's probably a loser.
Carefully.
Mr. Risher, I'll go straight to a different one. You've created a PAC to back pro-democracy Republicans in elections.
Merci.
During the time of your tenure as
have a great one. See you later. Hopefully,
Maricopa
see you
County
tomorrow
Registrar who administers elections.
Take care.
Did you not?
Be safe.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us why you created that PAC?
Because for 2 years, I got to sit by while my office suffered from the most pernicious lies and falsehoods and had been tormented in manners that were previously unthinkable to me. And much of that emanated from the Arizona Senate's review of the 2020 election and the charlatans and fraudsters that they brought in to conduct that review. And I didn't want to be part of a continued society. I didn't want to be part of a continued world in which we continued to peddle such obvious falsehoods. And so I wanted Republicans who would tell the truth about the 2020 election, a truth that, quite frankly, everyone knows. But they just so many people that I talked to just sort of said, hey, I'm going along with it because it's the way the political winds are blowing. And I thought that was not to my appetite.
Okay. And does that attitude go towards whether or not there was a basis for the allegations made in the Boyer v. Ducey case?
I'm sorry.
Does your disdain for the allegations of fraud in the 2020 election pertain to your views on the basis for
well, there's
filing
an election
the Boyer
fraud
v.
right
Ducey
now.
case?
I got to take the background
Yes,
out of that.
I don't think you should lie. I don't think you should lie about something that's so important. I don't think you should fail to appreciate the effects that it has on people who actually administer elections. And that's why I've consistently said that of the many cases brought in following the 2020 election in Arizona, all except for one, well, maybe not all, but most of them were done very responsibly and were cases that I was quite frankly rooting for as a candidate at the time.
I know,
the type of falsehoods that were riddled throughout this complaint,
Sydney's in with her
which
lawyers,
I
with
reviewed
the
last
lawyers
night,
that she was working with.
are characteristic
so,
of the
it's
type
only
of
appropriate. She's
falsehoods
snuggling
that
in
have
the
been
middle
shared
there.
for
You
the
know,
last
she loves a lap
3
dance.
years, and that I have
He was
seen
so
just
thrilled.
the ugliest
I wish
side
he'd come
of
on my
humanity.
show. I'd
as a
really
result.
like to talk to him. I have so
Okay,
many
at
questions.
what point did you conclude that these were allegations were falsehoods, sir?
Oh, if Rusty Testicles is listening,
the
because
ones
you
in
know
the
he loves to
Boyer
watch.
case?
Yeah.
Rusty Testicles, please tell your friend
Immediately.
Doug Frank that I would really like him
Okay.
to come on a show.
So
the
I'll
notion
open the
of
lounge
flipping
anytime for Doug
votes,
Frank. God
the
damn it.
notion of connections to foreign
Yeah, she's sitting with her
powers. I mean,
people.
that was like a
Those are her
Google
people.
search,
That's how
which
they
I was
got
doing
here.
a lot of
It's
at that
her.
time, was sufficient to
I think
debunk
it's
that.
hilarious.
So
Yeah,
that was
Palpatine.
your
That's right, Sydney
reaction,
Palpatine.
your immediate reaction
Oh, Carla,
prior
that's a
to
good one. That's a
investigating
winner.
any of these allegations, right?
I'm going to be quiet.
I suppose if you count Google.
Okay. So let's get back to the PAC. You felt is it fair to say that for an election official to get involved in campaigns and by creating a PAC is a commonplace in Arizona?
Isn't this because you wanted to raise money off of the
Election
Trump
officials
lost?
have
Wait a
been
minute.
sort of
You voted for him. Shit.
largely a sleepy, forgotten elected position. I know David Stevens down in Cochise County has a group. So it's done, but usually they're not the type of people that can raise money. But we're partisan elected officials. Everyone knows who I supported in the 2020 election.
Yeah, he voted for the fucking
and
dude.
everyone knows what my partisan affiliation is today.
Yeah, he's a
Are
fucking
you aware
Republican.
that activity might be considered illegal in Arizona?
It's 100% not illegal.
Well, okay. So you wouldn't deny that you were creating a PAC, would you?
No, of course not.
Okay. I'm going to ask Megan if we can, if she can pull up that clip that I sent earlier. Are you able to do that, Megan?
Sister, how you doing?
Yes, pulling it up now.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at this, Mr. Risher.
Oh, this is the Carrie Lake fucking trial.
I can't hear the audio.
This guy needs to fucking be disbarred too. This long-haired guy. I can't
Can you guys
remember his
hear it or
name.
no?
No.
All right.
Sydney's right where she needs to be.
Give me a second.
She doesn't even
Foundation as to what this is and what
This is the Carrie
Waiting to
Lake,
hear that.
I believe.
Right now, we can't hear the video itself.
She's trying. Give her a minute. Jesus. Give her a second.
I mean, I think that I know what you're gonna do, and it's wrong.
What do you say?
Well,
You say it's wrong?
You're gonna show Brian Blem's thing about didn't you create a PAC that went against Carrie Lake? And I said no, because it didn't touch Carrie Lake.
Yeah. Oh, that was, yeah, this is fucking God. These guys are so
All right, this does
pathetic.
not seem to be working at the moment,
I'd want
Mr.
my money
Byrne.
back.
Well,
Can you hear it now?
No, Emily, we can't.
Yes, that's a tweet.
The Maricopa County
Pro-democracy
Court is launching a
GOP.
PAC to support.
I mean,
So let's go back to the beginning if we can.
yeah, people who don't lie.
That's
That's not
and I'd
controversial.
like for you to be able to hear
It's not.
the question that's asked and
I remember it pretty well, assuming this is from the post-election, the post-2022, I would point out, election. And he said, isn't it true that you created
Janie?
a PAC that went after Carrie Lake? And I said,
Ethel Kennedy
no,
passed
because
away.
it was focused
What
on
else?
state races, legislative races.
Yeah, oh well.
And so I said, no. And you know, that's not in conflict with what I've told you here today.
I just don't care one way.
and
that's all.
Did the PAC donate any money to any opponents of Carrie Lake?
No.
And did the PAC pay your expenses for the activities that you engaged in on the PAC's behalf?
It reimbursed me for things I bought from my personal credit card for the PAC.
Okay. And were your activities in any way associated with anyone who was running against Carrie Lake?
No.
And
again, I don't know where this is going. I don't see the relevance.
I agree. We've got the point, Mr. Byrne. I think you've made it quite clear that the witness has feelings about charges were made as a result of the 2020 election. And that he's taken various actions related to that. I don't know that we need to go into great detail about, or any further detail about this issue. Do you have any other questions for this witness?
One question to wrap this one up, sir. Is it true, Mr. Risher, that the Arizona Attorney General investigated whether or not this was in violation of law?
No, it's not true.
Okay.
Doug and me.
Or if they did, I've never heard of it. Creating a PAC?
He's a tall guy too.
Creating the PAC with regard to.
He's got to be 6 feet, maybe 6'1".
I'm looking at.
Tall.
We'll pull this up. The Arizona Sun-Times referred to.
I thought he was
the Attorney General's laid out multiple violations of the law, numerous in fact. Recorder Risher created a political action committee specifically to oppose candidates that were on the ballot in the election that he was tasked with overseeing. There is clearly misconduct. 16-672 Arizona revised statutes is one area that we are looking at into to hold these guys accountable.
You know what that means?
Well, it's funny that you should be citing Rachel Alexander, who's a disbarred attorney.
Exactly. Rachel Alexander's
writing that article. And no, the Attorney General never did investigate into that. No, it's not unlawful. No, nobody ever asked me for anything regarding it.
All right, we'll move on from that subject.
We have 2 minutes before this witness has to leave us. Mr. Richard, you have to leave at 1, am I correct?
Oh dear.
Yes, unless like there's just a few more questions and we can conclude this.
Almost.
All right. Why don't you raise your hand and let us know when you have to go?
Okay,
wait, it's 9 a.m. here, which means there it's noon. Oh, is he gonna wait?
So,
you can't break for lunch.
One of the
You can't break for lunch.
issues,
what a
Mr.
fucking
Risher,
that bitch is a joke.
you testified to
Partisan.
before was that your
I
office
wonder if
had
she's on the list of 600.
Entities test some of
Release
the
list.
ballot equipment. Do you recall that?
Uh-oh, where's my thumb?
ProVP and SLI?
We had way more than 2 companies, but the 2 that we discussed at the beginning of February of 2021 were ProVMV and SLI compliance.
Okay.
Are we on to something else now?
Are you aware that ProVMV is the entity that provided certification for the Dominion equipment that Arizona has?
I'm aware that ProVMV does a lot of certification tests throughout the United States.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were aware that Pro V&V was
Yeah,
investigating its own
that's right. She
certification
was.
of Dominion
Oh my God,
machines.
Kathy. That's when we
No,
had it
that's an
out.
inaccurate
I gotta
statement.
find those tweets.
Why is that?
Her and I had it
Because
out.
Pro V&V was not investigating
hit a
whether it was
nerve.
certified. Pro V&V was investigating whether any malware
she
had been
blocked me, though.
installed
Maybe
over
she
the
did.
election period, whether the tabulation
I would
equipment
block
had
her.
been connected to the internet at any point during the election, whether the tabulation equipment was still working
Nope, she
as
doesn't
it
block me.
was intended to function, and whether the tabulation equipment could engage in vote flipping.
Did Pro V&V investigate whether the machine was secure?
It investigated those 4 items, and that report is published online.
Okay. And are you aware of the testimony in the Curling v. Raffensperger case that the Dominion machines are insecure?
We're sick to death.
I'm aware that they were talking about ICX devices, which isn't even what we use in Arizona.
I understand that. Are you aware that the democracy suite was evaluated and found insecure in the Curling case?
No.
You're not aware of that. Okay.
I'm aware of the report, but that's not what it concluded.
Yeah.
You are aware also that Pro V&V provided the certification for the Election Assistance Commission for the Dominion machines, right?
I believe they had some role in it.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Did you know that at the time you hired them?
Probably we would have investigated that, but I can't say with certainty at this point.
Okay. Did they disclose that to you?
I can't remember.
Okay. If Pro V&V had provided the EAC certification, and if you were hiring Pro V&V to conduct an investigation that would have impacted the validity of their EAC certification, would that be something that you would be concerned about?
No, and I find that to be a pretty ludicrous hypothesis, because if you were worried about your Mercedes car and you went out and you got a engineer who's licensed to work on Mercedes cars, and you wanted to know if a third party had installed a malware on your Mercedes car, then it seems like you should go get someone who actually has worked on Mercedes cars.
Okay, that's not exactly the same situation, but we'll move on.
Okay. Oh, really? Isn't it?
Now, you're not educated to the extent that you can assess statistical analysis, are you?
I guess that's the determination for someone else. I'd like to think I'm pretty decent.
Okay. Do you have a degree in statistics?
I have I'm a master's, and I'm working on finishing my PhD in informal modeling and statistical analysis in political science.
Ouch.
Okay. So you feel that you were
Carrie, sorry
competent
about
to
that. This is
assess
Stephen
Mr.
Richer, who was the
Ramsland's
former county
statistical
clerk
analysis?
for Maricopa County. He's being cross-examined by one of the
I need
lawyers
you to be
for the
more
lawyers who are
specific.
about to be disciplined for lying in court.
Yesterday, you were shown
Link at the top of the chat gives you some
a
background.
paragraph in a complaint that referred to Mr. Ramsland's expert report. And you
We're not testifying.
rejected
baby.
that.
That's
Do
a
you recall
feeling.
that testimony?
I recall being shown paragraphs of various documents and offering my thoughts on them. Can you tell me what that specific one was?
Well, let me ask you this. You said you read the Boyer v. Ducey complaint, right?
Skimmed over it last night. Yeah.
But had you read it before?
Yes.
And when did you first read it?
Probably at the time of the filing, because I know the attorney Alex Culloden, who was local counsel on that.
Okay. And when you read it the first time, did you assess Mr. Ramsland's statistical analysis?
I can't remember.
We got something to read about this. I thought it was a BA in literature.
And you can't remember whether when you read Mr. Ramsland's statistical analysis, you disagreed with the methodology that he utilized.
I think I was probably more hung up on some of the other allegations.
Okay, so you didn't do a deep dive on Mr. Ramsden's statistical analysis, did you?
I can't remember what I did at that time. No.
And you didn't do a deep dive last night?
I certainly did not do a deep dive last night.
And reviewing the complaint last night didn't refresh your recollection about Mr. Ramsden's statistical analysis, did it?
It did not.
And sitting here today, can you say that Mr. Ramsden's statistical analysis was incorrect?
Yes.
I can't even tell you what Mr. Ramsden was talking about, so.
We can tell you.
Do you have any knowledge of an incorrect statistical analysis in that complaint?
It's hard for me to talk about something that I don't have in front of me and I don't even know what it's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You seem to have concluded that that complaint was totally wrong, though, right?
Yeah, because at the time,
Yes, the complaint was totally wrong and was, like I said multiple times,
oh my God.
it was more like a James Bond plot than it was like the other complaints filed regarding signature verification, overrides at ballot tabulators for overvotes, ballot duplication process, the manner in which the hand count audit would be conducted post-election. This was talking about foreign actors and overseas influences and things being hacked and things being, and machines manipulating votes.
Well, you remember that pretty well, but you don't remember the basis on which some of those allegations were based.
Oh my God,
when
no,
Mr.
I don't remember the
Ramsden's
details,
opinion was
fucker.
If my memory is not to your
I
satisfaction, I
don't know what he
apologize.
said yesterday. I didn't actually listen, which is more MFA.
Tell me about the actual ballot tabulation process. Is the central server connected to the internet?
No.
Is the central server capable of being connected to the internet?
I don't, it is like if the physical hardware can connect to the internet, I don't know that, but it's in a room that can't connect to the internet and it's wired to only the tabulation and adjudication stations.
Okay.
But as long as we're talking about my level of expertise, I'm not a technology expert.
Okay, you're not a technology expert. So,
Okay, I found a Supreme Court.
and you testified yesterday that the Dominion tabulators were not connected to the internet during the election cycle, right?
Bring us up to date.
Correct, and that's been since confirmed by 6 independent companies.
I'm just asking that's your testimony. Is it were those tabulators capable of being connected to the internet either after or before the election cycle?
That's again something I don't know if that's technologically possible.
Okay. I want to address your
out of the way
testimony about the Texas State review of the Dominion Democracy Suite.
Well, that's okay.
You indicated that Section 5 or
now we're all together.
Version 5.5A was not the same as 5.5B. Is that correct?
Man, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Out loud.
Okay, and you reviewed the Texas information as to their concerns about the Democracy Suite 5.5A?
At some point in either late 2020 or early 2021, yes.
Okay. Did you assess whether or not the concerns with 5.5A were over features that were contained in 5.5B?
I don't remember.
Okay. So let me ask you this, if the Texas concerns were over features that were in 5.5A, but that were also in 5.5B, would that be of concern to you?
I'd need more specifics. The basis for my confidence that no fractional voting or vote flipping occurred has more to do with post-election audits, post-election hand count audit. As mentioned yesterday, the political parties hand count audited 47,000 votes from the 2020 election, and they matched 100%. So when we talk about software, we talk about hacking. Again, we have 100% paper ballots in Arizona, and 99.99% of them are hand marked. And so I guess, you know, if you even accepted the thesis, which I don't, that machines were manipulated, which we've proven they weren't, I would say, wouldn't that reveal itself in post-election audits?
Okay, so you're basing your conclusions on the results of a hand count and not on any kind of an analysis of the security of the Dominion machines. So that's your testimony, right?
No.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
No, that's not my testimony, and that's not my conclusion.
Okay, so let's go through this. You're basing your conclusion on a hand count, right?
Which conclusion?
A hand recount, that there was no basis to investigate the allegations of fraud.
They did investigate allegations of fraud.
That is one very material point of information that would be a major flag for me if I was saying that
And that's some good
vote switching or vote flipping occurred, or fractional voting.
So there was the fact of the hand count, and the hand count was completed when?
I think it was the weekend after the November 3rd election.
Okay. So what's the other reason? What's the other major reason or reasons that you rejected the fact that that an investigation should take place regarding the election?
That's a pretty broad question.
Well, it's a very specific complaint which you read and dismissed, and you're saying that you dismissed it very specifically because there was a hand recount. What are the other reasons?
The entire election system, that you can't be a voter without being a registered voter, that you can't be a registered voter without proving proof of identity, without getting a voter registration card, that you can't send back a mail ballot unless it's in its return ballot affidavit envelope that links to an individual voter, that all of this is done by bipartisan teams, that all of this is done under camera, that all of this is done with only people who have badge access to the facility, that all of this is reconciled, that all of this is logged, that all of this is tested by the political parties, that the equipment itself is accessible to the public in terms of its viewability, that you can go online and you can watch on a website some of these things, that all of these reports were produced, that there was a post-election logic and accuracy test and a pre-election logic and accuracy test. I mean, I think I've written on some of this stuff, but I didn't come with an exhaustive list. But needless to say, I wouldn't have participated in a complaint such as this while I was cheering on the excellent attorneys who were trying to advocate for my party in some of the other 2020 election contests.
I'm not questioning the motive. I'm saying that it sounds like you're saying that your knowledge of the process totally would exclude the basis for the allegations of the complaint in the Boyer v. Ducey case.
Oh my God.
I don't see how one could reasonably conclude that some of the items put in that complaint were even in the realm of possible.
And you did not yourself investigate the allegations in the Boyer v. Ducey complaint?
Yes, I did.
At what point, sir?
I was being asked this stuff throughout the November process, throughout November, throughout December. People would send me videos all the time. People would ask me, is Dominion hacking, is Dominion rigging our systems? And I would look up online. I would say, here's the results from the hand count audit. Here's the next logic and accuracy test. You can go to that.
Mr. Byrne, how much more do you have for this witness?
I'm going to go wrap up here pretty quick, sir.
Okay, great. Then it will be within the next 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Got it.
I think Mr. Driscoll was just pointing out that he has not had any opportunity. Yes, I realize that we're probably not Today, we'll have you then, Mr. Joseph. I don't think you asked it. Did you have any questions? What?
I'm done.
With this?
Yes.
So it's only Mr.
Well, I don't want to take up Mr. Driscoll's time. Does he have questions?
Are you finished, Mr. Burns? So Mr. Driscoll can.
I have one more.
Mr. Chair, I'll just let you know, I have about 30 to 45 minutes.
What's that?
I have about 30 to 45 minutes.
All right, I doubt that Mr. Richard is available for that period of time. Mr. Richard, what is your schedule for the rest of the day? You have to leave us. Stay till about 1 o'clock. We think we could finally finish with you, but
okay, then I'll do 1 o'clock if that needs to happen. Then sounds good.
God, this poor.
The last question I have, Mr. Richard, you felt so strongly about this that on May 19th, 2021, you wrote an op-ed for CNN entitled "Why I Had to Speak the Truth About Trump's Falsehoods." See that? Did you recall that?
Yes, that was again at the time that the cyber ninjas and their colleagues had accused personnel in my office of an unlawful action that was so facially preposterous and was repeated by President Trump that at that point, that's when I started loudly pushing back against this, because I saw the effects it had on people in my office and that they didn't deserve that. And so, yes, I wrote that CNN op-ed, and I've written many things since. And, to what
Stephen's been
effect,
talking
as
much as he can.
I sometimes wonder that. But I've been very frustrated, as you know, that people continue to lie about this.
In your final, in your 228-page final report for the 2018 audit, you discussed problems with voting machines and printers. Did that May 19th op-ed acknowledge those problems, or had you forgotten about them?
I don't know which problems. We had problems in the 2022 election with printers. Sometimes those things happen.
Okay, all right, that's all
resolved.
All right, Mr. Driscoll.
Usually out in the open, I would imagine.
Mr. Chair, would it be okay if I just turn on the audio for my computer and did it from this location?
That's fine. Yeah, maybe does that work?
Can he just disconnect his audio, because I hear interference, like I can hear.
Okay, should I just use the microphone?
Yeah, just use the microphone, but yeah, you can do it from your computer.
I'll do it here. That way, because I'm going to share some exhibits on my computer.
I know.
Mr. Richard, my name is Rich Driscoll. I represent a respondent by the name of Julia Haller. Do you know Ms. Haller?
I do not, no.
Would you agree with me that both state and federal laws applied to the Arizona election in 2020?
I agree.
And yesterday you testified that the state of Arizona joined ERIC in 2019. Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
And in 2020, were you aware that only 23 states and the District of Columbia had joined ERIC?
That number seems right for that time period.
Okay, and so that would mean that there's approximately another 27 states for which you couldn't get information through ERIC. Is that correct?
Through ERIC? Yes, that's correct.
And did you know that today there's actually less states that are members of ERIC? There's only 21.
Oh, and why is that?
I actually thought it was higher than that. I know that some have left, but I thought that more had joined, so I thought it had been pushing 30 for a little bit, and I thought it was down to 27, and then I think California is coming on board. But I certainly know that some have left. I think Louisiana left, Alabama left, maybe.
And,
Little bit.
I'm just quoting a statistic from their website, so I'm not representing it 100% correct, but that's what Eric is stating as of yesterday.
Great.
So would it be fair to say that in the aftermath of the 2020 election,
Right,
that Maricopa County had contentious populations arguing about the election?
Yes, very,
Did you
very
say people
fair.
were in their feelings?
For example, I'm
People
sure you're
standing
familiar
and
with
screaming
the
outside the
sort of
Maricopa County
movement
Recorder's
called
office.
Count the Vote. Are you familiar with that?
Count the vote. Can you refresh my memory?
Sure. Count the Vote started to hold protests outside the Central Tabulation Center, actually on the day of election, and continued thereafter almost daily. Were you aware of that?
Certainly aware of the protests. I don't know that, I didn't know that they had styled themselves officially.
Does he mean
count the
count
vote.
every vote? I mean, there's count vote.
In any event, there were many
more.
protests outside the Central Tabulation Center. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and there was also protest at the public hearing when the Board of Supervisors announced the certification. I think that was either November 28th or 29th. Do you know that?
I don't remember those as well as the protests as outside of the tabulation center, but that seems very possible.
Okay, newspaper articles that I've read have stated that the Board of Supervisors had to limit speaking time to only 2 minutes because there were so many people in attendance and people became quite disquieted.
The word of the day.
Yes. So in any event, there were a lot of complaints and lawsuits in 2019 and 2020 on election process and integrity, both in Arizona and in other states. So would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And so yesterday you testified that the Bauer versus Ducey lawsuit had a significant effect on the election process moving forward. I believe you referred to it as the Kraken lawsuit. Do you remember that?
Yes, we understood it to be a sort of a carbon copy of suits that had been filed in other jurisdictions. And the reason we called it the Kraken was because Sidney Powell, who was the person most associated with it, I think had said, release the Kraken from Clash of the Titans at some point. And so I think it just became known as that.
So it's kind of a nickname that was based on public statements made by Sidney Powell, right?
Yes, that was my understanding.
So can you identify any other attorneys associated with Bauer versus Ducey litigation who made public statements regarding the case?
Jenna Ellis was involved, and I think that she even did oral argument on the motion to dismiss. Alex Culloden was local counsel. And I know that Sidney Powell was on the pleadings, at least. Those are the ones that I remember for the Arizona iteration.
I apologize, I talked over you, and I know that Carmen is probably angry at me right now. But I will not do that again. You mentioned Alex Culloden. Do you know Mr. Culloden?
I do.
Are you familiar with any of the public statements that he made about the Bauer versus Ducey case?
Yes, and he's been reprimanded by the state bar.
Okay. And are you on good terms with Mr. Culloden, or would you say that you have a friendly professional relationship?
I will, it's
brunch?
possible, like, for Rosh
Catch a
Hashanah,
movie?
we would have could have texted each other. And I think at one point when there was some award, I think I teased him about it, but I mean, we're not close friends. I wish him no harm, certainly.
Well, I'm sure you know where I'm headed with this. I'm going to ask you, would you agree with me that at least as regards to my client, Ms. Holler, you are not able to attribute any public statements to her?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, how long did the Bauer versus Ducey case continue in the district court in Arizona?
Oh, I think it was dismissed in a pretty stinging order by Judge Metua, like within a week or something like that. But then it lingered in the appellate courts for a long time. I think like until like, well, not a long time for appellate work, but for election work, I think it was like until April of 2021 when the Supreme Court denied cert, I want to say.
Well, I'm focused on the district court right now. In the district court, does December the 2nd sound appropriate to you for the date of filing, and December the 9th for the date of dismissal?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And have you read Judge Humatala's decision dismissing the case?
Judge Metua's order, I did at the time. I haven't lately.
Do you recall that at a certain point she pointed out that while the claims were not plausible, they were at least conceivable on certain aspects? Do you recall that?
No, I remember the tenor was highly negative.
Okay, well, it says what it says. After the election in 2020, the county performed a canvass, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you briefly explain to me exactly what is meant by the canvass process?
The canvass is the summation of all results from the election, and it's also typically a description of or an overview of how the election was administered and how different people participated, whether they participated by mail, whether they showed up to vote in person early, whether they showed up to vote in person on election day. And it's the sort of that's when the results become official from the county, is when the Board of Supervisors signs off on the canvass.
Okay, and in this particular year, it took until November 24th to complete the canvass. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
And would you agree with me that that's longer than usual?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
Let me share my screen here.
I think in 2022 we did it one day before, right, or maybe even after Thanksgiving.
You see that?
No, sorry.
Oh, I have to share. Now I know what I'm doing. Okay, now, can you see this document?
Yes.
Okay, this is the certification from the 2016 presidential electors. And I'm going to scroll down and show you, I'm sorry, I have to scroll up and show you. This was dated November the 8th. Do you see that?
But I do see that it's November 8th.
So at least in 2016, would you agree with me that the canvass was completed only a few days after the election?
Objection. I don't think that's what the document says. I think the date is the date of the election, not the date of the canvass. As the circuit school pointing out.
It says.
You see the official canvass in the general election.
Oh, hold on. The election was held then. There's no way they canvassed them.
That's correct. So let me go down and see what the date is.
Oh my God, this is it.
The idea that we could have even all of our results within 1 week is impossible.
It looks like he's copied a field.
Okay, my mistake. I think I misread this document.
No worries.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody. Oh shit.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Well, in any event, the canvas process, it took until November 30th for the official certification in 2020. Is that the impression right?
For the statewide or for the county?
For the statewide.
That sounds right.
Incredible.
Actually, no, that was the county.
Is everywhere.
The hearing was held the day before, and the Board of Supervisors issued the official certification on November 30th. Does that sound familiar?
So sounds about normal.
Okay. In the general election in 2020, approximately 3,420,000 and some change votes were cast in Arizona. Is that correct?
Yes, that sounds right.
And more than 2 million of those were cast in Maricopa County, correct?
Yes, I think it was just a shade under 2.1 million.
Okay. Let me get my next exhibit out and show it. I'm going to publish to you a document that was produced in the Bauer versus Ducey case by Secretary Hobbs.
Okay.
You recognize this document?
No, I don't think I've seen this document before.
Okay. So you're not familiar with the certification of the Democracy Suite 5.5D voting system?
I'm familiar that the certification happened. Okay. I'm not familiar with, I've never seen this particular correspondence before.
Well, let me ask you to look at the list of components for the Democracy Suite 5.5B voting system. Can you tell me, are there elements on this component list that are not used by Maricopa County?
I'm not sufficiently knowledgeable about all the items here.
They're just exceptionally high.
All right. So yesterday you were asked questions about allegations of foreign interference through hardware components from companies based in foreign countries with adverse interests. In response to that, you stated that the allegations were false because you checked the log files and there was no such evidence. So what are the log files that you referred to yesterday?
Yeah, you can, the log files were produced as part of some of these reviews as to whether or not anything connected to the internet. And so I had our IT professional run me through those different log files to show me that as presented by Packet Watch, as presented by Congressman John Shadegg when he served as special master, as presented by SLI Compliance and ProVMV, that there was no connectivity to the internet by the tabulators.
So there.
And when did that happen?
It would have happened a few times. It would have happened in 2021, and then it would have happened again in late 2021 when we enlisted Packet Watch, and then it would have happened in 2022 when Congressman Shadegg oversaw the analysis of the Splunk logs.
And what is
don't mispronounce
you referred to a company when you enlisted some company in 2021?
Child today.
Yeah, in addition to SLI Compliance and ProVMV, we also enlisted Packet Watch.
What is
I'm sorry?
What is Packet Watch?
Packet Watch is a technology company.
And what did you enlist them to do?
We enlisted them to see if there was any files deleted from the 2020 election, and we enlisted them to again assess whether the tabulation machines connected to the internet at any point during the 2020 election.
When did you do that?
I think it would have been in the fall of 21.
Okay. Yesterday you were asked about an anticipated witness in the plaintiff's case in Bauer versus Ducey regarding a spike of 143,100 votes at 8:06 p.m. based on, I guess, what was euphemistically referred to as an additive algorithm. I'm going to show you an allegation from the complaint. Share it. And let me take a look. Okay, here we go. This is from Disciplinary Council Exhibit 224 at page 19. It's an excerpt from the complaint filed in Bauer versus Ducey. And I'm showing you the content of paragraph 66, which is an example of what was characterized as an improbable vote upload at 8:06 p.m. And when you look at the chart, you can see there's a spike at 8:06 p.m. from the uploads. Do you see that?
Yes, I see.
Okay.
And yesterday, when you explained that, you said that this is most likely a result of an upload in Maricopa County, which uploads promptly at 8 p.m., correct?
Okay.
Typically, we load at 8. That's the earliest at which it can be done.
Yeah, I think when you were asked the question about 8:06, you said you're surprised because normally it would be right at 8 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
Oh my God.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you another document. Let me stop sharing this. This is another document that was produced by Secretary Hobbs in the
boo hiss. No, I don't know. I like her. They don't like her. Obviously. I'm gonna move us right next to this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's lonely now that Sydney left.
This is a document that was produced by Secretary Hobbs in the Bauer versus Ducey case.
Okay. What'd that bitch say? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Ladies, or gentlemen, no, I'm so sorry. He, she's, and theys.
Now, I don't expect you to know what this document is, but I'm going to represent to you that the document that I published is an upload log that was provided by the Secretary of State for votes in Arizona throughout the election county process. But have you seen this document before?
It's possible, but I don't recall it immediately.
Where's my glass?
Well, you can see that on November the 3rd, and I highlighted it, the very first upload by Maricopa County is at, I can't figure out how to do this here. There we go. Is it 8:17? You see that?
Where's my phone?
Okay.
And I think Maricopa County uploaded somewhere north of a million votes. Does that sound correct?
No.
Yeah, it would have been whatever they had already processed, signature verified, audited, and sent to tabulation, and then downloaded from the election management server.
Okay.
And so, as mentioned, we can process ballots, we can tabulate ballots, early ballots that we receive prior to election day.
Okay.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about that. So on what day can tabulation begin for early voting?
Now, we could begin now, right today, if we wanted to.
And back in 2020.
I think it was 14 days before the election.
So they begin tabulation 14 days before election. And does early voting include overseas and absentee ballots too?
Yes.
So you can tabulate those also.
Yes.
And so it's likely that on November the 3rd, this significant upload of about 1.1 million votes by Maricopa County was the result of all those tabulations. Is that fair to say?
Yes, the first results produced for every election in Maricopa County will be all of the early ballots that have already been gone through that process that I described and have been tabulated.
Okay, and when people come and vote in person on the day of the election, those votes are tabulated by the voter, is that correct?
Yes, the voter inserts the ballot into the mini tabulator as we discussed yesterday at the voting location.
Okay, and so those votes should be available right after the election is done. Does that sound fair?
Right after leaves a lot of room for interpretation, but they are done throughout the evening.
Well, as I understand your explanation yesterday, these votes are tabulated as the voter passes their ballot through the tabulator, and then the memory sticks for those tabulators are then taken to central processing and loaded into the server. Is that correct?
Yeah, so voting locations close at 7 o'clock, but that of course doesn't mean that voting ends at 7 o'clock. And then the election workers at the voting location have to pick up all the materials, have to secure all of the materials. Then if they're at one of the nearby voting locations, then they'll individually drive in bipartisan teams to the central facility. If they're at one of the further out locations, we're a large county, then they'll go to a receiving site where they'll wait for other voting locations, and then that receiving site will load everything onto a big box truck accompanied by a police escort that then drives into the central facility in downtown Phoenix.
We have something to check in.
So you just mentioned something that raises a question in my mind. You said that the voting centers are closed at 7 o'clock, but voting doesn't stop. How many, is it anybody who can fit inside the door?
No.
7 o'clock, or is it everybody who's in line?
It's everyone who's in line.
Okay, so the line could wrap around the block, and you would still let those people vote.
That's all it says.
Correct, according to state law.
Okay, and how do you determine who's in line?
You send one of the workers out there.
Okay. And so once those votes are all done, and let's assume they're done hopefully by 10 o'clock, does that sound fair?
No, that doesn't sound fair. I wish it were fair.
So voting go in 2020, how late did the voting centers continue to have voters inside voting?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood your question to mean that like everything was packed up and was brought back by 10 o'clock.
This is what.
No, that's not my question. My question is, how long does it take for those voters who are still in line when the polls close at 7 o'clock to complete the voting process so that the poll workers can then begin the process of closing down the voting location?
Yeah, it really depends on the voting location and the year. I mean, some will be, everyone will be done by 7:30. Others will push into the, closer to 9 o'clock. But we hope that
the link that
I'll take your
Teresa
10
sent
o'clock
me.
thing. We hope
I
that
haven't read it, so forgive me.
they're all wrapped up in terms of voters having voted by 10 o'clock.
But we'll be around.
So at least by 10 o'clock, we hope that all the votes have been pushed through the tabulator, and the process of shutting down the voting location and taking those memory sticks to central processing can begin. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And so when those memory sticks are taken to central processing, does tabulation continue after hours, or does everyone go home and come back the next morning?
In 2020 and in 2022, what we did was received all of the different memory drives from the different voting locations. Then we also received all the early ballots that we were dropped off at the voting location on election day. We'd scan in the early ballots such that signature verification could begin on those early ballots, and we would be loading in the results throughout. And this usually goes until about 2 a.m. On election night going into Wednesday morning. And then some people go home and rest, but some people come in and start doing signature verification.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that at least by the end of the following day, all the votes for the in-person voting would have been uploaded to the server and uploaded to the state? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's typically how it would work.
47% today
All,
for Kamala.
anyone who
Yes,
voted in person on election day,
Get a
that
girl, get a girl, get a
those
girl,
results
get
would have
a
been
girl.
uploaded by Wednesday after election day,
to the back,
Tuesday.
don't let them run.
So after the election day, the only votes that continue to trickle in are the continued counting of early votes and absentee votes. Is that correct?
Yes, all the early ballots that were either returned on.
Asked and answered.
Again, it
Is anybody
depends what the
awake?
team gets to, but let's say Sunday, Monday, and election day, Tuesday being the most important day. And then anything that requires special attention, such as ballot duplication or ballot curing. As discussed, the ballot curing period can go on for now 5 days after the election. In years past, in 2022, 5 business days. In 2020, 5 business days.
But at least in terms of having those votes in the possession of the recorder's office, every vote that needs to be counted that's an absentee vote has been received on or before 7 p.m. on the day of the election. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you have all of those votes in your possession as of Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Now, I want to take you back. You testified earlier today that the basis for your confidence in the elections was based in large part on the accuracy of the post-election audits. And one of them was the hand count that was completed, I believe it was on November 8th. Is that correct?
That's not a correct interpretation of my testimony.
Nothing has been.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to mischaracterize your testimony.
Yeah, don't fucking do it.
Was one of the bases for your confidence in the election the accuracy of the hand count that was completed over the weekend after the election?
Yes.
Let me just walk you through this exhibit now and show you a couple of things. You can see I've highlighted in blue all the Maricopa County uploads, and most of the larger uploads take place on election day and then on the following 2 days. That's the majority of them. But when you scroll down through the uploads, Maricopa County continues to upload all the way through the 13th. You see that?
Dude, I'm
Yes.
sorry your
A
dude
full
lost.
10 days after the
I'm
election.
real sorry.
And if you look at the 13th, you're uploading,
Drama llama.
well, it looks like only a few hundred votes. But in the days before that, there are chunks of a couple thousand, 3,000, 5,000. There's some significant uploading of votes. And so my question to you is, why are these votes not being counted until 10 days after the election?
Okay, that's a question.
Well, this is the way it works in every election. Because when people drop off 200,000 early ballots on election day, and you have to scan those in.
Right.
You have to do signature verification. You have to send it to a manager audit queue. Then it has to go to a bipartisan team of humans who actually physically take the ballot out of the envelope, smooth it out, keep it in a batch of 200, log all of this at all the time, then send it to tabulation, then send it to adjudication. It takes a while.
What's that mean?
So I wish it took longer. I lived each one of these drops. I was losing until I think it was the Saturday after election day. Tuesday was the first time that I took the lead in my race. And so, you know, it's certainly not a pleasant process as a candidate, to say the least. But all of this is very telegraphed. Everyone could watch it. Everyone knew. I mean, there was even a Twitter account that became famous for Maricopa incoming as new batches of results were done. And this is just the way it's always been done in Maricopa County and in Arizona. And it's the way we'll do it again in a few weeks.
That's right, bitch.
Did you know that there are
anomalies?
5 uploads of votes that happen after the hand recount audit November the 8th?
God.
Yes.
Okay.
Feelings, nothing more than feelings. Wait. Feelings, but not data. It just kills the vibe.
So let me ask you a couple of questions about the consultants you hired in February of 2021. Those were the 2 audits, one by Pro BNB and the other one by LSI Compliance. And I'm trying to make this quick, but I'd like to show you a couple of documents and have you just identify them.
That's a lie.
Maggots have feelings. They simply cannot let those.
And I'm publishing for you what's entitled Field Audit Report, dated February 23, 2021 by Pro BNB. Is this the audit report you were referring to in your testimony yesterday? And I can scroll through and let you take a look at it.
I'm going to tell you all the places where you fucked up. They're trying to relitigate it.
Does this look like the report?
They're so dumb.
Okay.
So dumb.
And have you seen this document before?
Bitch. You're next.
Yes.
And I don't say that lightly. I don't get between people and their money very lightly, but I'm going to tell you this. These are bad eggs. Because they're feelings. Maggots who have feelings.
Okay, now I'm showing you a February 23, 2021 report by SLI Compliance. And this is regarding the Democracy Suite 5.5B. It's a forensic audit. And this is a little bit longer, but does this appear to be the report that you referred to yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Data hurts their feelings.
Now, earlier today, you testified that when you reviewed the Bauer versus Ducey complaint on at or near the time that it was filed, you knew immediately that the basis for the claims was unfounded. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then when you took office in January of 2021, you worked together with the board of supervisors and hired these 2 outside consultants to come in and audit the Dominion.
That song's going to happen.
Is that correct?
Yes. That song is going to happen.
And did your predecessor conduct any analysis regarding the integrity of the elections prior to you taking office?
Any sort of extra statutory analysis? Is that, I mean, all the sort of what is required as part of the election process was done.
did he investigate and publish any reports regarding the allegations in the Bauer versus Ducey case?
Exactly, Oren. Exactly.
I don't believe so.
That's right, darling.
Let me ask you, why did you hire these two?
It was just a mirage.
Hire these two consultants when you came into office, when the lawsuit had already been dismissed by Arizona, and it seemingly was facially invalid based on your opinion?
Yeah, because that was unfortunately not the opinion of many of our voters. We were faced with an avalanche of allegations, questions, theories relating to especially the tabulation equipment at that time. Dominion was sort of the catchword of at least those months. And we thought that maybe doing this additional review would bolster confidence, would clear up some questions, would make people feel better about the elections. I mean, just the number of inquiries at this time was just very significant.
And you didn't just hire one, you hired two, right?
Yeah, we looked at both of them, and then we thought, we thought they were both qualified to do it and could do a good job. And then you said, you know what, let's do both, and hopefully that'll help.
And how much did these audits cost?
A few $100,000, I think.
Each or together?
Together.
Oren, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your answer.
Together, I think was the price tag.
Just post everything after the www. Don't include that first part. Just post the last part, and you'll be able to drop it in the chat.
So I just want to ask you one question about your predecessor, Mr. Fontes. During your campaign in 2020, do you recall making the following statement regarding Mr. Fontes? And the statement is, I'm running because the current reporter has lost the confidence of the electorate as a result of incompetence, incivility, bias, unlawfulness, and a lack of transparency.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like I'll number them and send them to Megan for distribution. But at this time, I'd like to move into evidence the Pro V&V report, the LSI compliance report, and the two produced documents by Secretary Hobbs.
All right, is there any objection?
That's so great. I've been
no
wanting
objection.
to look this up, so thank you.
Secretary Hobbs' documents are already part of the court files that are part of, they're in evidence.
Maybe you can.
If that's the case, I'm fine with that, but I can talk to Mr. Harrell on a break. And
All right, so you'll documents, or are they already numbered, or are they?
I have to number the two reports as additional exhibits for our side. I think it will be JHX. I believe it will be 232 and 233, but I might be one number off.
All right, so any objection from you, Mr. Joseph?
No.
And Mr. Byrne?
No objection.
All right.
Okay,
So,
I have no further questions. I just thank Mr. Richard for his time.
yes, thank you for bearing with us. I do have one or two points of clarification, Mr. Richard, if you can bear with us for another 4 minutes.
Yes.
So 1 o'clock our time. As I understood it, you mentioned public statements made by several attorneys during the Bauer versus Ducey case. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but the federal court case.
Yes, I remember, like I said, statements made by Sidney Powell in particular, but and I said Jenna Ellis, and I said at local counsel Alex Culloden as well.
Right. What was the name of the the individual who threatened you and is now headed for trial in December? I think you mentioned. What was his name again?
There are two that are going to trial in December. One is William Hyde for the Southern District of California, and one is, I forget what his first name is, but his last name is Hornstra, Hoornstra, and it's either in the Eastern District or Western District of Missouri for that one.
And for Mr. Hornstra, at least, I think you testified that he appeared to be influenced by some of the allegations in the Bauer versus Ducey case.
He, I believe that deleted files motivated some of his comments.
The what? I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
Allegations of deleted files motivated his comments.
Deleted files. I'm not sure what that refers. Deleted files, deleted from what?
Files deleted from the 2020 election to cover up electronic malfeasance, I suppose.
Okay, allegations concerning deleted files. That was what you were referring to. That's what apparently motivated him, as far as you know.
Yes, sir.
What I'm trying to understand is that his conclusion or his view of that, did that originate from the public statements, or did he actually sit down and read the complaint, as far as you know?
Oh, I don't know.
All right. And the other gentleman, you said his name was Fry?
The other one that's being prosecuted or going to trial in December is William Hyde, Hyde, and that's in the Southern District of California.
Do you have any idea whether what exactly did he do? Did he also contact you personally or other people?
He transmitted multiple threatening voice messages suggesting that we'd stolen both the 2020 election and the 2022 election.
All right, let's limit us to 2020. We have enough to deal with there. Do you have any idea what the source of his allegations was?
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say some of the politicians making a lot of noise about this in 2022.
As far as you know, did he sit down and read the complaint? And
no, I have no reason to believe he did.
All right. Oh, I did have one question related, and this was your testimony yesterday, I think, about vote harvesting. Take it in Arizona, people can drop off their ballots at a post office box. They don't have to take them to the vote counting.
Correct. You can deposit your early ballot inside of its return envelope at a post office box. And then the only thing is we encourage people within 7 days of the election to drop it off at a voting location or a ballot drop box, just because we like to give the USPS lots of time. And as in one of the cross examinations noted, that we can't receive ballots after 7 p.m. for them to be valid.
Well, somebody goes to their local post office box, drops off their ballot plus 3 or 4 others they've collected in violation of the vote harvesting statute, anti-vote harvesting statute, I guess I should say. Would there be any way to detect that?
No, it's very hard to police. If you went around to your neighbors and picked up their ballot packets, as long as they were the legitimate ballot packets and they'd signed the return envelope, then it would be, I don't know how we would detect that.
All right, that's the only questions I have. I don't know if either of my colleagues have anything else to ask you. All right, thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
And you are excused. All right, we have.
Mr. Chair, if I might, we're going to be, I'd like to move into evidence and I'll make a motion for that. The documents which I referred to and which Mr. Richer confirmed about the statements of Mr. Hornstra, the dates are particularly important, and also the attribution for the reason for the phone calls as stated by Mr. Richer in these documents and as he confirmed are important too. So given the
New
questions that
election
you
officials may
have,
begin opening and
I would
processing vote by mail
like
up to
to
29
move
days
into
before,
evidence two of the
but they
documents.
cannot
We'll
be
be making
accessed
that
or
motion
shared until
soon.
all polls
right,
close.
these-
Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense.
All right, well,
kinda
once,
makes
yeah,
sense.
you can simply offer
You don't
them
want to have an
evidence
early
either.
vote. Like, this guy's leading, you know. People are,
Do you have them now, or are they?
I do. Let me,
Why don't you provide them to Megan if you can over the lunch break?
Can we get copies as well? We've never seen
I don't know what they are.
All right, you need to provide them to disciplinary counsel and
I will
also
take us
Mr.
over
Joseph
to
and Mr.
Justice
Driscoll.
Department. They don't usually start on time,
Megan,
so.
and we'll
Good
take them
news.
up
The good news
after lunch if that's possible.
I'll do that. Thank you so much.
You said that these are documents that relate to Mr. Hornstra and his unfortunate activities.
Yes, and the Mr. Richards' statements in this newspaper article, which he confirmed a copy of his tweet, which he confirmed these two, and I also have the indictments just for timing purposes. They're copies of the indictments. If we could put those into.
How many of these documents are there?
Just 4.
All right. Well, all right, why don't you show them to
I gotta edit that
your
picture.
fellow counsel, provide them to Megan,
Get rid of her shoulder.
and we'll take them up after we come back from lunch. If there's gonna be extensive debate about them, we may just proceed with Mr. Joseph and come back to them at
Richard
the end
needs
of the
hazard
day.
pay for
I
all
hope
of this,
we'll
Shotzi.
with
My
Mr.
God,
Joseph
what that
today.
man
How
has
much
been
more
through, and
does
I don't even
disciplinary
agree with
counsel
him on
have?
anything.
I'm hopeful that we can finish.
People who
this
do
well.
their jobs, I have a
When
tremendous
are we
amount of
gonna
respect
stop,
for.
though? If we have a
Oh my
hard
God.
stop.
What a high
time,
bar.
Hopefully by 6 o'clock, if that's real.
I was hoping 5:30.
What?
I said I was hoping 5:30.
Okay.
Well, that
I'm
depends
watching
on,
the DOJ
obviously
thing. It hasn't
depends on how
started yet.
much cross-examination. I wouldn't think there'd be a great deal since his testimony mainly relates to his activities, but who knows? I can't predict what someone else is gonna do, but we arranged to have.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've got their YouTube pulled up too, just in case, because sometimes their sound is wonky on their silly little website.
Yeah, we got cut off. There's no sound.
Okay, what are we doing? What is everybody doing?
They muted and I sent them a prompt on mute. David? Thank you.
What?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
We didn't hear half of what was said. The courtroom mics were muted.
There you go. Idiots. No, I'm just kidding.
Some the court.
Josh.
Yeah, so we didn't hear, I know we were talking about what time we'd be ending for the day. Julia said she preferred 5:30 and then we kind of lost audio.
Speak the fuck up.
Well, as I said, we could stay till 6. I'd certainly like to finish with Mr. Joseph today if we can.
Watching the
If
storm
anybody
chaser.
has
I
a
know. Oh,
conflict that
goodness.
can't be
My
dealt
heart is
with, we'll
breaking for some folks that are out
deal with
there.
that.
We have.
All right, let's return at 2 o'clock
J-Rance
or
likely
2:05.
lost power in the middle of the night. I know there was. We were in touch with her, gal especially, and so we haven't heard from her this morning. We believe that everything is probably fine, but she was in a pretty direct hit. So let's keep J-Rance and her beautiful family in our thoughts. And the minute I hear something, I'll let everyone know. But I'm hoping that everything's okay and it's a power outage kind of issue. So. All right, let's do this. Okay, oops. Nope, I didn't do it. You didn't hate it. Okay, that's the Department of Justice website, so we'll see if they do what they're supposed to do. They're live, everything's up, blah, 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 blah. I can even make it big. I know, I watched some people on TikTok. I know. I know. I know and there were a lot of people out, and the water didn't seem, well, it depended, I guess, on where you were, obviously. But I'm just hopeful that everybody got what they needed. And I was actually kind of not talking, but I was in the chat of one of the TikTok people, and I'm like, here's the 800 number, like, I know. Here's the Uber code in case. I was seeing Tampa. And I'm just like, in case. And nobody wants to be told what to do. That's for sure. I get that. But, yeah. I'm just like, I get it. I get it. And this guy was not asking for money. In fact, he was telling people, like, don't give me money. Do not do it. Do not find if someone found his Cash App, like, he did not put it on. Like, he literally was like, I'm just recording what's happening here, and I have nowhere to go, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I know. And yeah, oh my God. If someone, yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, I was just hoping this young man would, find a shelter nearby. But you know what? Nobody wants to be told what to do. So it's like, I'll just drop this, and if it helps, fantastic. If it doesn't, tell me to fuck all the way off, because I'm not standing in water. You are. So, I don't know. I just felt bad. Because he clearly wasn't like, I'm going to grift for this, kind of thing. There was nothing. And he deserved it, frankly. He deserved to have money. He was reporting from the ground, from ground zero. He should get support for that. So anyway, I don't know. That's it. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. But that's citizen journalism, but it's putting yourself in incredible danger. I actually haven't heard about him this morning, so I'm hoping everything turned out okay, but I did check late last night, and he was off. I know, sending love. Oh, it's true. It's true. Let's see. Do I have... Oh, here. Are you guys doing anything? Oh, you know what I should do? I should check their Twitter. Oh, wait, here we go. Breaking news from Sam Levine as passed by Teresa. Hat tip Granny. Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, two Georgia election workers subjected to vicious harassment after being falsely accused of wrongdoing in 2020, have settled their defamation lawsuit against the far-right news website, The Gateway Pundit. It's about what? FinCEN penalty? It's in your DM. Oh. Do we need to watch it then? I don't want to watch it if it's boring. I'm going to be honest with you. I have to write down all my medicine and all my vitamins and all my... Yes. I stayed up too late watching an experimental archaeologist try to figure out stitch work on Bronze Age hats. Fuck, yeah, that's cool. That's frickin' cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's the U.S. Department of Justice. They said it was significant, though. Come on, Teresa. I'm sorry. That doesn't sound very significant. I'm sorry. I'm just not feeling the significance of that. They said it was significant. They're lying. They're lying liars. Oops. Oops, I did it again. Ooh, 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 baby, baby. Bam. Let me see. What's good? Because I got some stuff. It's multiplying. What is this? Okay, I want to read this. This is a Slate article from October 9th, 2024. Hold on. And we'll keep the... you know what? Just for shits and giggles, we're going to keep the DOJ alive. Oh, whoops. What just happened? Where... Oh. I got chills They're multiplying. Oren, I watch that shit when they make like, here's my dinner in 1692. I'm like, fuck, I'm all over that. I am fucking all over that. That shit is so peaceful. That shit's peaceful. I love that stuff. I do. I love it. All right. This is an article that we had in our to be read. I don't know who sent this to me, frankly. But I like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. It's a Slate article from October 9th. Okay. Are we ready? Is kind of intact Bronze Age textiles is kind of mind-blowing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's the Townsends. It's the couple, though. And she's like, I'm going to make breakfast. You know, watch me make breakfast in 1892 or whatever. In colonial, or not colonial, but, you know. And the costume and just their, God, it's so beautiful and quiet. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm all over those two. I love them. I think they're adorable. I think they are adorable. Yes, darling, or dear. They are legit. Legit. Okay, so this is Alexander Salmon for Slate. Oh boy, I gotta read this. Like, I gotta move shit. Okay. Oh man. Oh, you know what? I was on this space with Sam Bankman-Fried about this crypto thing. But anyway, let's just talk about this. All right. About a week before the 2022 midterms, FTX, the cryptocurrency exchange, founded by billionaire wunderkind Sam Bankman-Fried, began to collapse. The day before ballots were cast, the company announced it was seeking a bailout. A month later, Bankman-Fried had been arrested on a smattering of civil and criminal charges, including a number of campaign finance violations. Not long after that, he was sentenced to 25 years behind bars. The fallout for electoral politics was immediate. In the months prior to FTX's implosion, Bankman-Fried had made himself the face of a crypto campaign finance machine of spectacular might. For nearly the entire 2022 election cycle, he was the second largest Democratic donor after George Soros, putting up nearly $40 million to shape House and Senate races. A late spending surge by Michael Bloomberg knocked SBF to third, and that doesn't count his millions in dark money donations or those made by his close associates. The goals were lofty. Oops, let me get this. Go away. The goals were lofty.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Uh-oh.
Before we get started,
yes,
I want
Daddy?
to extend my sympathy to the millions of Americans who've had their lives turned upside down by Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene.
God, this guy
I know I
so
speak for
fucking
all of
low.
us in expressing my gratitude to the first responders on the ground who are carrying out rescue missions. And I want to thank all the volunteers who are helping their neighbors get through these storms. And now to the subject of today's announcement. Today, TD Bank pled guilty to multiple felonies, including conspiring to violate the Bank Secrecy Act and commit money laundering. TD Bank has also agreed to a $1.8 billion criminal penalty. Combined with civil enforcement actions announced today by other agencies, the United States will be imposing a total of approximately $3 billion against TD Bank. TD Bank created an environment that allowed financial crime to flourish. By making its services convenient for criminals, it became one. Today, TD Bank became the largest bank in U.S. history to plead guilty to Bank Secrecy Act program failures and the first bank in history to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. This is also the largest ever penalty under the Bank Secrecy Act and the first time the Justice Department has assessed a daily fine against a bank. As part of the plea agreement,
Toronto
TD
Dominion,
Bank
man,
will
that's a big one.
fundamentally restructure its corporate-compliant program at its U.S.-based bank, which is the 10th largest in the United States. The bank has also agreed to the imposition of a 3-year monitorship and a 5-year term of probation. While the bank has started its remediation, it will continue to remediate and improve its anti-money laundering compliance program
Now do Jamie
to
Dimon.
ensure that the bank operates lawfully and safely moving forward. In addition to obtaining today's corporate felony pleas, the Justice Department has also prosecuted 24 individuals for their involvement in money laundering schemes that moved over $670 million in illicit funds through TD Bank accounts. So far, the Justice Department has charged 2 TD Bank employees for their involvement in one of these schemes. Pursuant to the plea agreement, TD Bank is required to fully cooperate with the Justice Department's investigation of the bank and any of its officers, directors, and employees. If the bank fails to do so, it will again be subject to criminal prosecution, in which the statement of facts that are part of the plea agreement may be used as evidence against it. Our criminal investigations into individual employees at every level of TD Bank are active and ongoing. As is the case in all corporate criminal matters, no one involved in TD Bank's illegal conduct will be off limits. We will follow the evidence wherever it leads.
Oh, sweetheart, we've heard that before.
Federal anti-money laundering laws are designed to prevent criminals from using U.S. banks to fuel their crimes. Our laws dictate that the narcotics traffickers who flood our communities with deadly drugs cannot use American financial institutions to move their money. And our anti-money laundering laws dictate that a bank that willfully fails to protect against criminal schemes is also a criminal. That is what TD Bank was, because it failed to maintain an adequate anti-money laundering program between January 2014 and October 2023. Over a 6-year period, TD Bank failed to monitor $18.3 trillion in customer activity. As TD Bank admitted in its plea agreement, this allowed 3 money laundering networks to transfer over $670 million through TD Bank accounts. At least one of those schemes involved 5 TD Bank employees. The bank maintained an automated transaction monitoring system that was supposed to detect and generate alerts on suspicious transactions and activities, but that system was willfully deficient. As the bank admitted in the statement of facts,
very good question,
which
Lee.
it filed today, at various times, high-level executives, including the person who became the bank's chief anti-money laundering officer, knew there were serious problems with the bank's anti-money laundering program. But the bank failed to correct them. 3 money laundering networks took advantage of TD Bank's failed anti-money laundering system. First, over the course of a 3-year period, a person who TD Bank employees knew as David moved over $470 million in illicit funds through TD Bank branches in the United States. David has separately pled guilty to laundering drug proceeds through the bank. David had attempted to launder money through numerous financial institutions, but he found that TD Bank had the most permissive policies and procedures, and so chose to launder most of his funds there. He also bribed TD Bank employees with more than $57,000 in gift cards in furtherance of his scheme. David's illegal conduct was obvious, to say the least. On more than one occasion, he deposited more than $1 million in cash in a single day. He then immediately moved the funds out of the bank using official bank checks and wire transfers. TD Bank employees at many levels understood and acknowledged the likely illegality of David's activity. In August 2020, one TD Bank store manager emailed another store manager and remarked,
that guy
quote,
heard your joke.
"You guys really need to shut this
every
down."
Time Merrick says
LOL.
TD Bank.
In late 2020, another store manager implored his supervisors, several TD Bank regional managers, to act, noting that, quote, "It is getting out of hand, and my tellers are at the point that they don't feel comfortable handling these transactions." In February 2021, one TD Bank store employee saw that David's network had purchased more than $1 million in official bank checks with cash in a single day. The employee asked, quote, "How is that not money laundering?" A back office employee responded, quote,
letter K
"Oh,
joke. Okay.
it 100% is." In a second separate money laundering scheme, 5 TD Bank employees conspired with criminal organizations to open and maintain accounts at the bank that were used to launder $39 million to Colombia, including drug proceeds. That money laundering organization reused the same Venezuelan passports to open multiple accounts at TD Bank. It sometimes used the same passport to obtain multiple debit cards for a single account. Despite significant internal red flags, the bank did not identify that its own employees were conspiring to launder tens of millions of dollars to Colombia until law enforcement arrested one of them.
Okay, well, they're very naughty.
In yet a third scheme outlined in today's charges, a money laundering network maintained accounts at TD Bank for at least 5 shell companies. It used those accounts to move over $100 million in illicit funds through the bank.
Who was it?
Even though retail employees flagged suspicious activity connected to those accounts, the bank did not file a suspicious activity report until law enforcement alerted the bank to the money laundering network's activities.
Oh my God.
By that time, the accounts had been open for over 13 months and had been used to transfer nearly $120 million. On multiple occasions, bank employees openly joked about the bank's enabling of criminal activity. In one instance, a compliance employee asked a manager what, quote, the bad guys thought about the bank. The manager replied, quote, LOL, easy target. Other employees consistently joked on the bank's instant messaging platform about the bank's motto, quote, America's most convenient bank. They linked it to the bank's approach to combating money laundering. For example, a compliance employee asked a colleague why, quote, all the really awful ones bank here, LOL. The colleague replied, quote, because we are convenient. There is nothing wrong with a bank that tries to make its services convenient for its honest customers. But there is something terribly wrong with a bank that knowingly makes its services convenient for criminals. The Bank Secrecy Act requires financial institutions like TD Bank to establish and maintain compliance programs that guard against money laundering.
Right.
But TD Bank chose profits over compliance.
They chose anger.
In order to keep its costs down. That decision is now costing the bank billions of dollars in criminal and civil penalties.
Ouch.
Less than a year ago, the Justice Department secured felony guilty pleas from Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and from its founder and CEO. We also obtained one of the largest corporate penalties in U.S. history.
All right.
The department's actions against both Binance and TD Bank are a reminder that financial institutions in this country have an obligation to guard against criminals exploiting their services.
Oh, my God.
The Justice Department will aggressively prosecute any company that fails to do so.
Really? Any company?
I want to express my gratitude to the public servants of the Justice Department's Criminal Division, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey, and the DEA for their extraordinary work on this case.
Okay.
We are also grateful to IRS criminal investigations, the FDIC's.
Okay, I'm sorry. Merrick, why don't you go fuck yourself? I'm sorry. Okay, that's great. No, it really is. I want all the banks. I want to eat the rich. I want all the banks gone. That's what I want. I have a lot of questions. This is great. Now what about Deutsche Bank? I know they're not American, but they have an American presence. So why aren't is there any sanctions against Deutsche Bank? What about Mazars? In fact, I just saw Mazars broker a deal or be the accountant of record, I guess, for the deal that Don Jr. made with some Saudis. Oh, Mazars also does the books for the largest real estate company in Saudi Arabia. Coinky Dink? Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't Mazars just implicated in the financial fraud cases that Donald Trump was convicted 34 times on? That Mazars? Okay. I see how this is. So I love pretty shiny things like this, and it's good. It's actual good work. But, and I will say, but there is a lot more that needs to be done, and it's not getting done. There's no planners arrested. There's nobody. They're still doing it today. Anyway, I'm going to take a actual break and run an errand. And since they're on lunch for the other thing, and then I'll come back and I'll start a new stream. All right. So please come back for the new stream in about, I don't know, half an hour or so, not very long. And then we'll start again, and we'll start on the afternoon session of our amazing naughty case. Naughty case. All right. Thank you so much for spending so much time this morning. I really appreciate it. Always nice to see everyone. Welcome to our new friends in the chat. Really nice of you to join us. I'm glad you found us. And I will, yeah, it's never a coincidence. Nope. Nope. I'd like to know who else banked at TD Bank. I mean, it'd be interesting. Anyway. All right. Well, I will be back. I will totally be back. I'll be back really soon. So have a great little break from my voice. And then we'll keep writing our song, Feelings. We've got lyrics we've got to write. So I'm going to enlist your help in that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll see you in a little bit. Take care. Have some lunch. Eat something. You look tired. Eat something.